Good morning, everyone. We will now call to order the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, January 27th. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Certainly. Supervisor Cerna.
Here.
Supervisor Kennedy. Absent at the moment. Supervisor Desmond.
Here.
Vice Chair Hume.
Here.
And Chair Rodriguez.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Will the clerk please read the cable statement?
This meeting of the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors is live and recorded with closed captioning. It is cablecast on Metro Cable Channel 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast and DirecTV UVerse cable systems. It is also live streamed at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting replays Friday, January 30th at 6 p.m. on Metro Cable Channel 14. Once posted, the recording of this meeting can be viewed on demand at youtube.com/MetroCable14. The Board of Supervisors fosters public engagement during the meeting and encourages public participation, civility, and the use of courteous language. The Board does not condone the use of profanity, vulgar language, gestures, or other inappropriate behavior, including personal attacks or threats directed towards any meeting participant. Seating is limited and available on a first-come, first-served basis. Each speaker will be given 2 minutes to make a public comment and are limited to making one comment per agenda off-agenda item. Please be mindful of the public comment procedures to avoid being interrupted while making your comment. Comments made by the public during Board of Supervisors meetings may include information that could be inaccurate or misleading, particularly concerning topics related to public health, voter registrations, and elections. The County of Sacramento does not endorse or validate the accuracy of public statements made during these open public forums. The recordings are shared to provide transparency and access to the proceedings of public meetings. To make a comment in person, please fill out a speaker request form and hand it to clerk staff. The chairperson will open public comments for each off-agenda item and direct the clerk to call the name of each speaker. When the clerk calls your name, please come to the podium and make your comment. If a speaker is unavailable to make a comment prior to the closing of public comments, the speaker waives their request to speak and the clerk will file the speaker request form in the record. The clerk will manage the timer and allow the speaker 2 minutes to make a comment. Off-agenda public comments will take place for a maximum of 30 minutes. The remainder of the agenda comments will take place at the conclusion of the timed matters in the afternoon. As a reminder, Rule of Procedure 10B allows the chair to establish uniform time limits for people addressing the board in relation to a particular matter. Such limits may be announced at the beginning of each matter posted on the agenda and can include setting a specific amount of time devoted to public comment for a particular item, announcing cutoff times for receipt of request to speak forms, reducing the amount of time per speaker, or other reasonable and content-neutral measures. You may send written comments by email to boardclerk@saccounty.gov. Your comment will be routed to the board and filed in the record. If you need an accommodation pursuant to the Americans with Disabilities Act or medical or other reasons, please see clerk staff for assistance or contact the clerk's office at 916-874-5451 or by email at boardclerk@saccounty.gov. Thank you in advance for your courtesy and understanding of the meeting procedures.
Thank you. Will the clerk please call the first item?
The first item today is presentation of resolution recognizing the first Saturday after the spring equinox as the National Day of Play.
Okay, and this will be presented by Supervisor Desmond. Oh, you don't want to give me the ball.
Feel free to throw these around the chamber during the presentation, Supervisor Hume. Good morning, and thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to present today. I'd like to invite Congressman Ami Bera to please come up here and join me at the podium. And, you know, this is the best I can come up with, a few beach balls for today in recognition of the National Day of Play. I want to thank our Regional Parks Director, Liz Bellis, for bringing me a few things. I have Frisbees back there, but County Council advised me against throwing those around the chamber because of the liability concerns. I actually looked for my 80s era Adidas tracksuit to wear for this presentation, but I couldn't find it. I think it's in Supervisor Hume's closet maybe, but But thank you, Congressman. He contacted me about this several months ago about this effort to establish, for a National Day of Play throughout the country. And, with all the heavy things weighing on us at every level in this country, in every community, in every state, I think it's really important when we have an opportunity to step back and think about what's important, what brings us together as communities, what makes us healthy. And a National Day of Play is something that does that. It's a recognition of the importance of getting young people of all ages, to disconnect from their screens, from social media, and acknowledges the concerns about social isolation, the behavioral health issues that accrue as a result of that when people are isolated in their homes attached to a two-dimensional screen. It encourages people to get out and physically exercise and use our wonderful parks in Sacramento County. And I think every jurisdiction within the county is going to be introducing one of these resolutions. And it encourages all Americans of all ages to unplug, get outside, participate in local events that build connection and promote overall well-being. And so I'm going to present this to Congressman Barra on behalf of Sacramento County. Be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors, County of Sacramento, State of California, hereby recognizes and celebrates March 21st, the first Saturday after the spring equinox, otherwise known as the first day of spring, as the National Day of Play, and encourages people to put their electronics down and play together, especially outdoors, highlighting the importance of social connection for mental, physical, and social development. And Congressman Barrett, thank you for bringing this to us. Thank you very much. I'll let you say a few words here. We'll get a photo. Thank you. And the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Supervisor Desmond. Thank you to the board and the staff here. This feels like coming home, because there was a day that I worked for the county as Chief of Primary Care Services. So I used to come up here and argue for a bigger budget for Health and Human Services. I didn't always get it, but it does feel like home. At a time when we see so much despair or concern around our country, this is a positive. This is, I'm going to sound like an old guy, but when we were kids, we'd come home, do our homework, and go outside and play, ride our bikes around, and had to be home when the streetlights came on. But we didn't have devices. We got out there and played, and most kids want to do that. And there is an epidemic of social isolation in this country, and I've been talking to my colleagues in Congress, House, and Senate, and this is going to be a bipartisan, bicameral resolution that's going to be introduced when we get back. It'll be Senator Pete Ricketts, a Republican from Nebraska, Senator Chris Murphy, a Republican or Democrat from Connecticut, Mike Flood, a Republican representative from Nebraska, and ourselves. And we've talked to a number of our colleagues. Everybody gets this. Play can be defined however you want it. Go to church, go on a picnic with your family, go volunteer at a food bank. Let's just get out and do things. We're already doing a lot of this. Every weekend in our community, we can find an activity to do it. I've talked to our local media. They want to promote this. Again, let's do the positive, right? Life looks good on you, right? Let's celebrate who we are. So we're going to start here. We're not going to define how to do this. The county, the cities have all said they're going to adopt similar resolutions. Let's see where it goes. I'm proud to be a Sacramento County resident. I'm proud of who we are as a region, and this is the positive. And let's put some love in the world. So thanks, Rich.
Thank you, Congressman Barra. Thank you for the reminder that we need to disconnect from work and the electronics to get out into the real world and enjoy the beautiful amenities that we have in Sacramento County. I do have a speaker, Supervisor Kennedy.
Oh, boy.
Actually, Congressman, thank you for being here today. It is important that we take time to recognize this. This is in line with former Surgeon General Murphy, and who I think is probably the best Surgeon General we've ever had. And with everything that's on us right now, and particularly that's facing our children who look at horrible things on TV and don't understand them, it's important to take time, get outside, and actually cleanse your brain and get away from this stuff that's out of our control, yet we have to continue our lives. So I thank you for bringing this to our attention and for being there to champion something that seems lighthearted, but it's not. So I appreciate that. And secondly, before you leave, I would like to, while you're there, really lobby you for a bigger budget for Health and Human Services. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I hate to do this because I know I'll hear about it later, but could we all take a photo over here? Because
Yes.
we're going to be doing this in other cities within the county, and let's demonstrate that Sacramento County supports it
Absolutely.
more than any other local jurisdiction. How about that? Grab a beach ball, maybe, everybody. What do you think?
Everybody get a ball. Ready?
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Okay, good.
All right, will the clerk please call the next item?
Item number 2 on our agenda are public comments for matters not on the posted agenda. And we do have several speakers today. First up, I'd like to call down Belinda Ellis.
Is Belinda in the audience? Okay, we'll come back to Belinda.
All right. Then next on our list is Lisa Riley.
Good morning, Lisa.
Thanks for having all those chairs there. Okay, I've never been here before, so I know I only have 2 minutes, but thank you. Oh, thank you. Lowered the table. Okay, that was wonderful, the previous. I'm here on a much sadder notion. I have been Shauna's parent since she was 2 days old. She came from the foster system. She turned in a man who sexually assaulted her in Special Olympics and Sacramento County Therapeutic Recreational Services last year. And we've been living a life literally of hell. We have been told, the people called IHSS, they called APS. They have a notice of action against my daycare of 40 years. The only thing that we've done is turn this man in for sexual assault and one of the girls who hit her in the face and broke her glasses. Okay, so I was told by APS that when she came out, she said, I didn't know why I was here. I have no documentation on you. I have nothing. And I said, then why did you come? And she gave me her reasons to why she came. And she said, nobody in her department sent her. She said it was above her boss, Michelle Calea's position. And you guys are right above that. But they were told, come to my house and it was all in the same week. Do these things, and it was back in October, we wrote some notes. It was October 21st, 23rd, and 24th that these people were out at my house of last year. And IHSS came out, said, you have a beautiful home, your home is clean, your daughter's well taken care of. The false allegations were that I was abusing my daughter, beating her, not feeding her. The next one, they're trying to do a revocation on my daycare license of 40 years. The next one came out and they said, like I said, she said she didn't know why she was out there. It was a favor from up above. She said it's above, so it would be this council. And I just happened last night to see that the council was open today. So I was like trying to want to talk to you guys. I got a documentation.
Lisa, you're going to have to wrap it up. Your time
Yes, I
is-
know. I see that. That's why I'm talking quicker. Thank you, ma'am. I got a notice that the woman who's making these is Deanna Ratowski, and she is posing as a police officer, and she's friends with somebody in here. She comes to these meetings a lot, I was told by an investigator yesterday. And then she met with
Lisa, you got to bring it to a close.
Shael DeLuca. I'm here because I'd like to find out which person, I don't know if you guys are allowing it, but which person is allowed to tell us who sent all these people to our house because they said it came from this entity here.
Okay. Mr. Villanueva, can we connect her with someone at county staff?
Yes, we will absolutely do that.
All righty, sounds good. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Shauna. So we did turn in the man for sexually assaulting me, and then the friend of this guy is Deanna Rutkowski, and she is posing as a CHP like my mother said, but she has gone into 20 years of my records that are sealed from the county, and
Tell
I
them why
just,
they're sealed.
they're sealed because I came out of the foster system, and I just want to know what she is and everything like that.
And Shauna has autism and sensory disorder and special needs. She's had brain surgery, spinal cord surgery, eye surgery,
Okay.
and her stuff is all sealed.
Well, thank you, Shauna, for coming here and sharing your information. We will connect you with county staff that can help you with your circumstance.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So do we just wait and then
Well, yeah,
they'll
somebody
tell
will
us?
meet.
If
Somebody
you
will.
step to the back, I'll send somebody back there to chat
Yes,
with you.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that was our second speaker, Shauna P. And we have no other speakers. Belinda Ellis was the first one called who was not present.
Okay. Belinda? No, Belinda? All right. Will the clerk please call the next item?
All right. The next item on our agenda are our consent items, number 3 through 32, and I do have clerk notes for item 20. And that note is for item 20, introduce an ordinance amending Chapter 6.20, Title 6 of the Sacramento County Code relating to solid waste management. We will be waiving the full reading and continuing to February 10th, 2026 for adoption. I have no additional notes.
Okay, and I'd like to pull number 5 and number 13, and I have some of my colleagues in the queue.
All right, so that is pulling item number 5, which is the approve a resolution to request the sheriff's office send a representative to the Sheriff Community Review Commission meetings, and number 13, which is authorize the director of the Department of Transportation to execute an improvement implementation agreement with the Cordova Hills LLC, and those items will be heard on contested consent or moved off of consent.
Okay. Supervisor Kennedy?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to remove pull item 3 from consent.
Item 3, which is,
Sorry, Clerk, if
Certainly.
we could just hear it afterwards, and once the remainder of consent. So you can read it to the record then, is what I'm saying.
okay, certainly, will do.
All right. Supervisor Hume?
Thank you, Chair. My request was also to pull item 5, but I think we're going to hear that as a separate item. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, good, thank you.
And Supervisor Cerna?
And I, too, wanted to pull item 5, so thanks to my colleagues for doing so in advance. And then I would like to record an abstention on item 13.
Abstaining on item 13. Authorize the director of the Department of Transportation to execute an improvement implementation agreement with Cordova Hills LLC. We will record that.
Thank you.
Okay. So,
So that, yeah, is there a,
Probably read item 5, right?
correct.
oh, moving to item number 5, the first one pulled. Thank you very much. Yes. Item number 5, approve a resolution to request the sheriff's office send a representative to Sheriff Community Review Commission meetings.
Yeah, I had a question about this particular item. I understand that the Sheriff's Department has been present at these meetings, but my question is, if this resolution goes through, is it enforceable?
We can defer to County Council since she assisted us, but I'll leave it at that.
No.
Okay,
I mean, it's a suggestion that they attend.
okay.
So I mean, I'm not sure what you mean by enforceable, but
Like, well,
we can't mandate that they attend.
that was my question. Okay, and do we move to the next?
Oh, certainly. Oh, yeah, Cerna and
Oh,
Robert.
item 5. Okay, yes. All right, Supervisor Hume.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for asking that this item be pulled. My concerns revolved around the same tenor of your question. I just want to begin by saying I support the work of the Review Commission, and I support a healthy relationship with them and the sheriff. I did receive, I was contacted by the sheriff who pointed out that the resolution is not enforceable and is not necessary, and that they have been attending and participating in the Review Commission meetings. And so my hope would be that by having this item on the agenda, we are encouraging active participation and good cooperation amongst those two groups, but I don't support what is essentially a paper tiger and has no enforceability. So I would not be voting in favor of that resolution.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Cerna.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate my colleagues and respect my colleagues' position. I have a very different one as someone who requested this. And hearing from my appointment to the commission, who serves as chair, several times, as I believe the full board has heard in these chambers, the frustration that the sheriff's office does not always send a representative to these meetings, which I think, quite frankly, in my opinion, is necessary to have accountability. That's the whole purpose of this commission, is, especially as Supervisor Kennedy knows from helping lead an effort to make it a little bit more meaningful and robust in years past. And so when we don't have a representative, especially at least the undersheriff at these meetings, I question the public's view of it in terms of it being what we say it is, which is a means to foster accountability. I get it with modern technology, undersheriff or others in the sheriff's department can watch from afar, but that's a one-way street. So not having the sheriff literally in the room or the undersheriff in the room, where commission meetings might progress to a place where questions are asked in real time, and there's not the ability to have those questions answered in view of the public, I think is short-sighted. So I'm going to actually go a little bit further. I didn't pull the item or join my colleagues in pulling the item to just state what I did. I pulled the item because I believe the whereas doesn't go far enough. And so I would like to suggest to my colleagues that the last whereas be a little bit more intentional. And so I'll read it as is. It says, whereas the Board of Supervisors requests that the SSO send a representative to each meeting of the commission. I would like to make a few word changes so that the last whereas reads as follows. The Board of Supervisors expects that the SSO send a high-ranking representative to all commission meetings. So I would put that in the form of a motion that we adopt the resolution with those changes and ask for a second.
Second.
Yeah. There's still comments, I think.
Okay.
People got in the queue.
All right, Supervisor Desmond.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Supervisor Cerna and Supervisor Hume. Appreciate the discussion. I think it's a very important discussion. When we founded the Community Review Commission, we had a lot of these discussions, and I think the assumption was that the sheriff would have participation, and that has largely been the case. I had a conversation with Sheriff Cooper this morning about this, and we had a conversation with when the Community Review Commission gave their presentation. I think we all talked about the importance of having sheriff representation there, and I think the sheriff shares that. And the sheriff is going to assured me he was going to reach out directly to the chair to have a discussion and try to resolve some of the underlying issues. And I don't think. I don't think at this point it's necessary to have a resolution suggesting this. I think we can meet the need here by having discussions with the sheriff, indirectly encouraging the sheriff or directly encouraging the sheriff to meet with the Community Review Commission leadership. Having the sheriff coordinate more directly with Mr. Jones here. And I think especially when it comes to the rank of the sheriff's personnel who participates, I think that should be completely within the discretion of the sheriff in terms of what might be on the agenda for the day. Because it could be something very, very important on the Community Review Commission agenda where it might be appropriate for the sheriff or undersheriff to be there. If it's not something that's important on the agenda, it might be more appropriate to maybe delegate that to a lieutenant or a sergeant or something. So I don't want to get in the business of being prescriptive with the sheriff on who he sends, and don't think it's necessary for us to memorialize this in a resolution. So I will also be opposing the motion today.
Thank you. Supervisor Kennedy?
Thank you, Chair. Couple things. First, when this was adopted, we were in a different time as far as I'll be frank, as far as our relationship with the Sheriff's Department. I think that the relationship now is considerably better than it was under the former sheriff. That being said, when we established the Review Commission, it was kind of understood that there would be participation of the sheriff there. Didn't think we had to put it in the bylaws for the most part because it I think, benefits the Sheriff's Department. It behooves the Sheriff's Department to be in these meetings, to hear directly firsthand and have an opportunity to have a dialogue and a communication, because that's what, if you'll recall, the long conversations that went on when we developed this board was, we purposefully called it the Review Commission and not the Oversight Commission, which is a completely different thing. It does have subpoena power, so it is an organization with teeth, but at the same time, it's also an organization that is intended to be a conduit of conversation and a conduit of information between the Sheriff's Department and the Commission, which vis-a-vis the public. So I see nothing wrong with this. I see nothing wrong with, and I seconded the motion, Supervisor Serna's motion, because the language change, I think, is appropriate and shouldn't be offensive to anybody in any way. And as far as, Supervisor Desmond, your comments, I don't think that even with Supervisor Serna's change of language, this requires the sheriff or the undersheriff to be there. It's leadership. So it's at their discretion, whoever's appropriate. We're not prescribing who, but we are prescribing a certain level so that it's somebody who's in a decision-making position that can go back to the sheriff and share something that could actually improve the Sheriff Department and our community and our county. This is why I'm supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Serna?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Supervisor Kennedy, for those remarks. I think, as I pointed out earlier, that supervisor has been pretty much the vanguard on this subject for a while. That said, I will say that probably no other supervisor on this board, I should say boards, plural, over the last several years had a more tumultuous relationship with the prior sheriff and the sheriff's office and even the union than this supervisor. So I completely agree that it's appropriate to premise the comments that Supervisor Kennedy and I are offering this morning, that yes, it was a different day and time and circumstance with the previous administration of the sheriff's office, and I am very heartened to see the work of Jim Cooper and his staff I think, make some necessary changes from the previous administration. So I certainly don't offer my suggested language and sponsoring the resolution to nitpick or to criticize. I think, though, having learned over several months now that attendance has been more than light by the undersheriff, that this language, while of course it doesn't have any force and effect in terms of legal influence, I think it is important that the public see where this board stands, all 5 of us together, in terms of how we value accountability. This is a commission whose sole purpose is to try and maximize that. So I don't understand the rub. And I understand that, sheriff's making his calls and the undersheriff's making his calls to various board members saying it's not necessary. So here's what I'm going to suggest. That, well, first of all, I see that the motion's going to fail, so we're going to vote on that. But what I would like to request through the county CEO's office and through Mr. Jones is that let's see in 6 months. So I'd like to know and have a report back. It doesn't have to be lengthy. It can just be a very, very brief timed item. But a report back that not just documents the attendance, but gives us some understanding for not just this board, but the public in open session of the level of participation. So I think that's not unreasonable. Others have said that aren't supporting the motion this morning that they have faith that the undersheriff is going to be in attendance at least, or maybe the sheriff. I don't know. I would hope the sheriff. But let's have a report back so that we can test that faith and understand what really happened over the next 6 months. So I'm formally making that request ahead of the vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does that CEO acknowledge
Yes,
that?
we'll bring that back in 6 months with 6 months with the data.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Supervisor Hume.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I think it's an absolutely reasonable expectation, and I would like to see that report back. And I'll explain where my rub comes from is simply that I was raised to believe that you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And so I think the position of this board has been made clear, it has been heard, and that the engagement of the sheriff's office, particularly of leadership, does provide for a more productive environment for the purpose of the review commission. But in the interest of kind of a more clean process, I would like to offer a substitute motion to deny item 5 on the agenda as put forward and the suggested amendments.
I'll second that.
And we do have a live motion on the floor.
His substitute
Takes
Oh,
precedent.
substitute. Okay. You're fine with that. Okay. Looks like we have nobody left to speak.
I do have one speaker here. Supervisor Desmond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just a clarification, an affirmative vote on defeating
Correct.
the resolution versus letting the motion fail.
Correct.
That would be the...
Okay. Please vote.
All right. That item passes with 3-2, with the noes being Cerna and Kennedy.
Can you show the vote tab, please? Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next item, Mr. Stormer.
Next item is number 13 on the pulled item from consent. Authorize the Director of Department of Transportation to execute an improvement implementation agreement with Cordova Hills LLC. That item was pulled by Chair Rodriguez.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions on this particular one. It appears as though the 1.4 million that was added to this is not going to be enough to get the project moving forward. And so what is the plan for the difference? Because my understanding is it's somewhere in the 20 millions?
Yes, Chair. Cameron Chu, Principal Civil Engineer with the Department of Transportation. That is correct. That is a portion of the amount required to build the project. The reason for putting that in the implementation agreement was because we have a $25 million raise grant that we've received towards Grant Line road improvements, although the actual project cost is probably going to be about double that to build the first phase of the connector improvements. But we are working towards closing that funding gap, looking at other options, because we do anticipate delivering the connector as a county capital project, which includes the shoulders and some additional improvements beyond what Cordova Hills is required to construct. We are taking their fair share funding and folding that into the improvements along with other funding sources.
Okay. And did we reach out to the JPA to get some of their feedback on this particular item?
We've been coordinating with the JPA on Cordova Hills in general, as far as the specific fair share costs and fulfilling the conditions of improvement. I don't think we've reached out to them specifically on that, but we have been coordinating with them the overall right-of-way requirements and Cordova Hills.
Okay. I am going to ask on this particular item, can we move it to the next meeting, but in the meantime, we reach out to the JPA connector and get some feedback from their office?
Yeah, we can reach out and coordinate that with them.
Okay. So I do have some speakers on this particular item. Supervisor Kennedy?
Sorry, Chair, not on this item.
Oh, not on this item. Okay. Supervisor Hume?
Thank you, Chair. I will just put it on the record. I have had conversations with the executive director of the JPA as well as our director of DOT, and there is a considerable shortfall in order to meet the match for the raise grant that we have received. We don't have identified funding for that. This amount on this item was stipulated as a part of agreement with the developer for their improvements. Rather than having them construct the improvements, we're asking for the money in hand in order to apply it towards the project, and that there are additional reimbursable mitigation measures and conditions of approval that we could borrow against that would have to be repaid within a certain amount of time. And so I don't have objection if we want to put the item over, but there's not a lot of additional juice to be squeezed from this particular lemon.
Yeah, the condition that Cordova Hills has specifically is for shoulder improvements along Grant Line Road, which if we were to construct that as a standalone project would probably be $5 or $6 million. So even if we were to get that full amount, it would still not make up for the total $25+ million shortfall that we're looking at.
Okay. Supervisor Cerna?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to offer my support if you want to hold it over and get your questions answered. I think that's appropriate.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that a second?
That's a second.
Okay. So are there any requests to speak on this item?
I don't know if it's a second because I'm abstaining, so it might need to be someone else's.
Okay. Do I have a second just to move it to the next meeting so that we can connect with the JPA?
Second.
Thank you, sir. All right, please vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next item.
All right. Yeah, and that item passed 4-0 with Supervisor Desmond absent. All right. Next item on the agenda, we're moving to consent calendar item number 3.
Mr. Clerk, you were supposed to record a... Was that so? That was just on the motion to move it, right?
To continue the
All right.
item to the next meeting.
All right.
Yes.
I was getting quizzical looks from staff, so...
Sorry, I will be more clear on that. So the next consent item that was pulled was number 3, agreements with CVR and Associates in the amount of $998,000 for consultant services and interim executive office consulting services, with the option to extend either agreement by 1-year period. Memorandum of understanding with Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency to reimburse for CVRC Associates Inc. Contract costs, and appointment of interim executive officer and approval of an appropriation adjustment request in the amount of $686,000. And that item was pulled by Supervisor Kennedy.
Thank you. I would, obviously, I support this, as I've been fairly outspoken on this subject for quite some time. But I think it's too important. It's got too much impact on our community. It's something that too many people have been looking for and asking for many years, to just put it on consent and vote on it and let it go. So I'd like at this time to give the staff an opportunity to just make a small presentation as to what this is and what we're talking about as far as timeline and what the ramifications are and issues are and all that. Just a small brief presentation, Madam Chair, if that's okay.
Yes.
Supervisor Kennedy, thank you for bringing this up. I'll invite Deputy County Executive Katari up to do a quick presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Great. Good morning. Siobhan Katari, Deputy County Executive, Health and Human Services. So I wanted to just start out by thanking the SHRA team. Since the transition to Acting Director Jim Shields, we've been able to meet with their team weekly and be able to have some really good conversations going forward. So I wanted to thank them and let you know they're in the audience today should you have any questions. So for this item, I have a little presentation I put together just in case you wanted more, which you do. In 2024, the board asked SHRA to provide presentations on a variety of topics based upon questions that you had about operations, processes, costs, and things like that. And so SHRA came back with some workshops and presentations, including development processes, costs, governance, voucher programs, and more. So just by way of background, on October 17th, after their final workshop, the board directed staff to come back with recommendations regarding SHRA's governance structure and operations. In April of 2025, staff came back with recommendations to conduct an assessment with the assistance of outside consultants to both strengthen and improve the relationships and coordination with SHRA. In August, the board approved the scope of work for this consulting contract, and the RFP was released to the community. And in October of last year, 2025, the longtime executive director of SHRA retired. Deputy Director Jim Shields was appointed as acting director, and in collaboration with the city, staff began a search for an interim executive director and expanded our RFP to allow for that executive director to come from a consulting firm. The assessment objectives that we were hoping to seek through this RFP process included evaluating SHRA's public housing and voucher programs, housing financing processes, and governance structure. We also provided recommendations and implementation guidance to enhance efficiency, transparency, and alignment with county priorities and the Department of Housing and Urban Development requirements. Our recommendations today include approving the contract with CVR Associates to evaluate SHRA's public housing and voucher programs, housing financing processes, and governance structure, and to provide an experienced executive leader to maintain the continuity of operations during this assessment period and support a transition to a permanent executive director. After a review of the proposals, which included city leadership, we are currently recommending CVR as they were the highest scoring firm for both components. These components included both the assessment and the provision of an interim director. We believe CVR has demonstrated expertise in housing policy, organizational assessments, and executive consulting, and this firm's proposal offers a comprehensive approach to achieving the county and the city's objectives. As part of the recommended action, the board is being requested to allow CVR to seat an interim executive officer effective February 1st or when the contract is executed. They will be seating Ms. Chris Warren, who is Senior Vice President at CVR, who will perform day-to-day executive consulting services pursuant to the terms of the consulting agreement. Ms. Warren brings over 25 years of experience in affordable housing and public housing authority leadership, including executive roles at major housing authorities and federal housing policy positions, making her uniquely qualified to provide stability and strategic guidance through this critical period of transition for SHRA. And of note, this afternoon, the City of Sacramento will also be taking an action to the City Council to approve the appointment of Ms. Warren, as well as the associated amendments to the JPA agreement that allow us to do that. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions, and also Acting Director of SHRA, Jim Shields, is here to answer your questions as well.
Thank you for the presentation, Siobhan. Supervisor Kennedy.
I don't have any questions necessarily, but a couple of comments. First of all, to Jim Shields, thank you for stepping up when you did. It's been a pleasure working with you as the interim. I have found your transparency to be delightful, and so thank you very much. As far as this goes, I wanted to pull it and be able to give it the attention that it deserved, because really, this could lead to and will lead to changes, but it could lead to the greatest changes in affordable housing policy at the County of Sacramento in 40 years. That's important, why I thought it was more important than a line item in a consent calendar. So thank you, staff. It's been, a long time in coming, a lot of hard work. There's a lot of hard work ahead of us, more hard work ahead of us. We're just beginning, but I think we're heading in the right direction, and this is really, truly, as much as it seems like a bureaucratic move of signing contracts and awarding contracts and moving money, this actually will go further to housing people who are currently unhoused or in critically need of housing. This will go further to doing that and accomplishing that than almost anything that we have done as far as permanency of housing, not shelter, in years. So that's why I bring it to everybody's attention. And thank you very much, Siobhan, for being here today.
You're welcome. And if I can add one more thing, I forgot to mention, we believe the assessment period will take about 6 to 9 months, and it's intended to start in mid-February. And so we will come back to the board before the end of the year with their recommendations, so you can weigh in on those.
And I do have another request to speak. County Exec Villanueva.
If Siobhan's done. I would just like to echo Supervisor Kennedy and Siobhan's comments about Jim. He's taken over the reins very quickly when the previous director retired, and he's been incredibly communicative to us and collaborative. As Siobhan says, we've been meeting with him weekly. He's been doing a fantastic job of keeping not only myself but also the board updated with board alerts and letting them know that the things that are happening at the federal level and the impacts on HUD, the concerns that may be impacting on HUD, also HR 1, and just a whole host of things that are impacting the affordable housing realm. So I just wanted to personally thank Jim for his efforts and appreciate his commitment to not only SHRA but to the County of Sacramento. So thank you.
Jim, I also want to just express my gratitude to you for stepping up and working with us the past few months. It's been a pleasure working with you. All right, any requests to speak on this item?
We have no speakers on this item.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Oh, I have one more speaker here, Supervisor Kennedy.
I apologize again, Chair. My first meeting, apparently. I did want to make a comment I forgot on item number 10, if that could be read into the record.
Certainly. Item 10 is the retroactive authorization for the Director of Airports to receive a state grant in the amount of $1,500,000 for on-site child care facilities for airport employees at Sacramento International Airport, and authorize the Director of Airports or designee to take all other necessary related action.
Thank you. Just real quickly, want to say this is fantastic for the working people at Sacramento County Airport. It's in many ways a 24-hour facility that makes it very difficult for families to find employment out there. This helps. And I also want to specifically call out and thank our state senator, Senator Ashby, for helping this come to fruition. It shows that sometimes it's a good thing having a mother as your state senator. So I appreciate that work, and with that, I just will look forward to supporting it.
All right, I have another speaker, Supervisor Hume.
Thank you, Chair. Apparently, it's my first meeting as well. I just want to clarify, I thought when an item was pulled off of consent, it's voted upon separately. So I was moving item number 3, but if we want to roll that into a full approval of the consent?
Yeah, all we have left is consent and item 3. The balance.
Do we need to vote on them
3.
separately? That's what I'm asking. Is if an item has been pulled from consent, must it be voted upon separately, or can it now be put back and voted on as a whole?
Either way is fine.
Okay, in that case, my motion is to approve all of the consent calendar.
All right. And I have another speaker, Supervisor Serna.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to also speak to item 10 as SMF is in the first district. I wanted to make sure I too chimed in a bit here, and I share all of Supervisor Kennedy's comments and thanks, but I would just like to take the opportunity, as it did come up in our briefing yesterday, to remind folks that this is going to be a child care facility that is not intended for you to drop your kids off as you go on vacation, right? I know, a lot of disappointment in the room. This is intended for the employees at the airport, so thank you.
All right, I'm just going to make one last comment on that one. I think when we look at being a great place to work, adding childcare to the opportunities to attract great employees to the airport is very positive. So with that, we will go to a vote of the consent.
Certainly. The balance of the consent calendar and item 3 are approved unanimously 5-0.
Okay, will the clerk please call the next item?
All right. That brings us to our timed items. First up is number 33, presentation of a comprehensive review of tax revenue enhancement options.
Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning, Chair Rodriguez, members of the board. My name is Amanda Thomas. I'm the county's Chief Fiscal Officer, and I am here today following up on direction that was provided by the board during budget hearings last year when staff recommended and the board approved direction to explore revenue enhancement options, including potential tax measures that would generate additional discretionary revenue, recognizing the county's unmet funding needs, both in terms of deferred maintenance and required capital investments, as well as a structural operating deficit with the cost to deliver county services continuing to outpace ongoing revenues. And of course, exploring potential tax measures to enhance discretionary revenues is part of a larger effort to align ongoing revenues and expenditures, which also includes maximizing the use of restricted revenue sources, ensuring cost recovery where possible, and identifying and implementing cost reductions and efficiencies. To help inform the tax revenue enhancement options available to the county, staff engaged HDL, a consulting firm with expertise in California local government taxes, to prepare a comprehensive study of the different types of tax measures available, along with associated implementation requirements and potential additional revenues that could be generated if approved. Ken Duran from HDL will present the information for each type of tax measure, and then we're seeking input from the board on next steps with a recommendation to direct staff to conduct additional research, including polling, in preparation for a potential tax measure no earlier than 2028, recognizing that it will take time to identify and develop a measure that would have the necessary support among county voters. Before I turn it over to Ken, I wanted to acknowledge Colin Bettis, the county's debt officer, who volunteered to help manage this effort and has been invaluable keeping us on track. And I'd also like to thank Ken and his team at HDL for providing their insights, analysis, and expertise. And with that, I'd like to introduce Ken Duran, who is a senior advisor with HDL Companies.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair, Madam Chair, and supervisors. It was our pleasure to be engaged to do this work on behalf of the county. We've done a number of these tax revenue studies for a number of cities. This is the first time we've done one for a county, which was unique and a good experience for us. So as Amanda mentioned, there are really limited opportunities for raising taxes. And so what we've identified are what those opportunities are and the process to go through implementation, and in many cases what the potential revenue opportunities might be. So the screen shows you the list of the taxes that we evaluated. So what we did was we described each tax, provided you with what the implementation process is, some pros and cons for each one, and in most cases, a potential revenue estimate. So taxes can be approved for general or special use of funds. And the requirement in all cases is a tax measure voted by the residents of the county. For general use taxes, it requires a 2/3 majority approval, and it of the board to put it on a tax measure on, and then it requires a simple majority for voter approval of the measure. Transaction and use taxes always require a 2/3 county board approval. Special use taxes, which are taxes that would be used for a specific purpose, like road improvements or public safety, require a simple majority vote, but also require a 2/3 majority vote of the board to put it on a ballot. So let's describe each one of them. So utility users taxes are taxes on utilities, and the board or the cities that impose them have the ability to decide which utilities are taxed and the rate of that tax. So tax is currently on electricity, gas, sewer, wired telephone, and cable services. The current tax rate is 2.5%. There's a list of cities within the county that also have their own utility users tax. This would be restricted if you're imposing something addition to the unincorporated area. For each 5% increase could generate about $4.3 million in additional revenue. And you could also expand the tax to include wireless services, telephone, and sanitation services.
One moment, I have Supervisor Cerna in the queue.
Thank you, Chair. So I wanted to catch you while you're on this slide. Thank you. So I note that our current utility tax, if I'm reading this correctly, is 2.5%, which is comparable to both Citrus Heights and Oak Grove and Rancho Cordova, but not so much City of Sacramento. We've known this for a long time. In fact, it's at least in the district I represent, is actually greatly influenced a decision based on feedback from my constituents not to annex or permit or pursue annexation by the City of Sacramento and a portion of North Thomas in recent years because of the tax rate that would be then incurred by those property owners once they became part of the city. So I guess what I would like to know is if you can share, and perhaps there's staff that can do this, what's the history of the 2.5%? In other words, has the county ever entertained something different, or was it once lower and there was an initiative, small I, to pursue very small incremental adjustments to it? So, Amanda, I don't know if you can speak to that.
Yes, so I'm not aware of the county pursuing adjustments. I am aware that certain of the cities have pursued adjustments to, as Ken mentioned, an option would be to include wireless telephone. So certain of the cities have modernized their ordinances to include additional types of utilities. That is not something that the county has pursued.
So as far as any of our institutional memory collectively understands, no one knows whether it used to be 1.5% or 2%, and it jumped in 1973 to another 0.5%. I mean, none of that?
I don't have that data.
Okay, I'd like to know that and get the answer offline at some point.
Yeah, we can certainly follow up, but just to clarify, my understanding is that it has been this 2.5%.
So that when it was initially set?
That's my understanding, but we will follow up and confirm. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
And again, just to clarify, if there was an expansion of the types of utilities that are included in the tax, that would also be a measure on a vote of the public. So you can't just arbitrarily make those changes. And just on a note, utility user taxes, historically, in recent years, there have not been a lot of new cities or counties that have added utility user taxes. and the success rate of those ballot measures is pretty low. So it's one that obviously you're taxing your residents, so it's a little bit harder of a sell when you're trying to get voter approval. A transaction and use tax, it's a destination-based sales tax, so it's in addition to your Bradley-Burns tax rate. There is no TUT, as we call it, in the unincorporated area, but you can see that there are several cities that have these tax add-ons. It can either be countywide or in the unincorporated area. There is a cap on the amount that you can add statewide. If you did the unincorporated area at a 0.5% sales tax, it could generate an additional $60.8 million, and that's in addition to your regular sales tax. These are very popular, and this is actually one of the taxes that is gets passed more regularly, especially by cities, because one of the things with this type of a tax is we can do a study that shows how many non-residents are purchasing within your community. And so then you can, when you campaign for this type of a tax, you can let your residents know that they're not paying the full burden. And in some cities, that non-resident, depending on the community, can be as high as 40 or 50%. So it is a little bit of a good selling point to say that your residents aren't taking the full burden of this new tax. Transit occupancy tax, you currently have a rate of 12%. And this is the tax on hotel rooms. You can see the rates for your surrounding communities, so you're right in line with that. This would only apply if you change the rate to your unincorporated area, and a 0.5% increase would generate, as it shows, another $478,000. It would put you on the high end of the cities within the county.
Through the chair.
Oh, Supervisor Serna.
Thank you. So like the tax that you mentioned in the previous slide for TOT, is there any state cap for counties?
No.
Okay, so it's unlimited.
It's unlimited. So, really what you're looking at is how competitive are you with, especially the cities within your, however, there are very few people, I think, that would make a decision.
I don't know that we go through any in-depth elasticity analysis on TOT. So, yeah. But I understand your point. Thank you.
Okay. Property transfer tax, and this is a sale transfer tax on the sale of property. Standard rate is $1.10 per $1,000 of value. The county would receive 55 cents. County receives the full rate for cities with a non-standard tax rate. Folsom adopted a non-standard rate, which generated about $1.3 million. It's not, in comparison to the amount of return on investment, it's not as high of a tax generator as some of the other categories. You always have the ability for general obligation bonds. You currently have some that are outstanding. And again, typically these would be for a specific purpose, a specific project or road improvements for something like that.
I have a Supervisor Serna on the queue.
Thank you. I see staff is also in the queue. So, Amanda, do you want to go ahead and go first?
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify that county does not have any general obligation bonds outstanding. So that may have been the question that you were going to ask.
Well, I was going to ask a more general question about geo bonds, but and Amanda, this is in your wheelhouse. Is there an industry? I suspect there is kind of an industry expectation in terms of some kind of, I don't know what the ratio would be, but in terms of the amount of bonding capacity through a geo issuance, that if we wanted to. And we were thinking, or we were being thoughtful about the prospect of a new geo bond, that we gauge that against in terms of our overall debt?
So yeah, I think there are legal restrictions to consider in terms of the overall, what the debt would represent in terms of the overall value of property. But I think you're asking more sort of investment considerations.
Yeah, like kind of what are our capacity considerations, I guess is the best way to summarize.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely something that we would evaluate were we pursuing this. So ultimately that gets to what would the what is the ability of the market to withstand that cost that would be passed on?
And remind me, are there legal restrictions on geo bonds for M&O versus capital?
So the bonds are issued for capital purposes, right? So we cannot issue tax-exempt bonds to fund operating expenses.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Parcel tax, and again, this is a tax that would be applied to parcels within the community. The county would have the ability to determine the amount of that tax and the types of property uses that could be taxed. So if you didn't want to tax residential, you could carve residential properties out. If you only wanted to tax commercial, again, you could establish what the fee is. Typically, they're based upon land use or building square footage. There is no current tax in the unincorporated area. And again, it can be countywide or apply to incorporated cities. Potential for revenue countywide, is shown on the slide. Business license tax. Currently, you have a business license fee to which you collect to administer your business license. But typically, incorporated cities have a business license tax, which the most common is, and what we would recommend would be a gross receipts tax based upon the gross receipts for the different types of businesses. And again, you have a lot of latitude on what businesses you want to tax and what that amount is, and it can vary from business to business. If you adopted a gross receipts tax based upon the model that we kind of looked at, we were looking at between $20 and $33 million in additional revenue. It was mentioned about a rental car tax. This actually is not a tax that you can apply as a separate tax because rental cars are subject to sales tax, so they're already being taxed and you're getting revenue for that. But you could, if you adopted a business license tax, you could tax the rental car companies based upon whatever you want as far as the amount and value. Same thing with a parking lot tax. You can't tax parking lots separately, but you can add that to your business license tax. And you could tax parking lots in the unincorporated area only, and it could be based upon either gross receipts on their revenue, it could be based upon the size of the lot. Again, you have a lot of latitude on how you would apply that. Cannabis tax, business license on cannabis. You proposed a specific rate in 2022. There are a couple of other cities within your county that have cannabis taxes. This would only apply to unincorporated areas, and the tax again would be based upon gross receipts. We have a division that does administers cannabis taxes for a number of cities. It's a very, very difficult tax to administer because the industry is a little bit difficult to monitor, and so it can be a lucrative tax, but it could be very costly to administer.
I have a question on this one.
Yeah.
So the unincorporated parts of the county do not have any cannabis businesses, correct?
That's correct, as far as I know.
And so then this would be on the cities that have cannabis?
No, this would be unincorporated. This would be kind of a prospective tax.
Oh, okay.
If you were to
Okay.
adopt.
Got it.
If you were to allow businesses in the county,
Okay.
then you would have a tax already in place.
Okay. I have a Supervisor Kennedy.
So while we're asking on this issue, does it impact in any way our ability or what we are taxing on cannabis that's delivered into the county?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Admissions tax, again, this would be a new tax on the price of admissions to events or venues. You currently don't have any tax in your unincorporated area. Rancho Cordova does have one. And again, this could be a business license related tax. And you can tax the facility, but you can't tax more than 10% of the base ticket price for the events.
Supervisor Serna?
Thank you, Chair. I assume this is also geographically based, right?
Yes.
Which brings up an interesting question for me. So we host a number of events in Discovery Park. Discovery Park is in the city of Sacramento, but it's obviously a county facility. It's a county park. I'm sure people have researched this, but is there any prospect? Are we missing anything in terms of this particular type of tax application relative to the fact that it is, we're having big events that bring tens of thousands of people to our county facility? What are we receiving, if anything, in the forms of admissions revenue?
Well, we don't currently have an admissions tax in the county, so we're not receiving admissions tax revenue.
Do you know whether or not, Amanda, the city of Sacramento is applying an admissions tax?
Not to my knowledge. I think the only admissions tax we identified in the county is in Rancho Cordova. We can certainly research that and look into, how would something like this apply to Discovery Park? I think that's your question.
It is.
Yeah.
Not that I'm, particularly tax hungry or anything, but I would just like to understand that particular revenue source, given the uniqueness of the fact that we have this rare instance where we have where we find ourselves being the stewards of large county facilities, namely the American River Parkway, all 4,500 acres of it, that runs through two cities, where we host these grand events that are, generating tens of millions of dollars, if not more, each year. So that I think it's worth exploring.
It's our understanding from the research that we did that they do not have a admissions tax. The only one in county, or the only city in the county, is Rancho Cordova. So how they're generating the revenue for those events, probably I don't know if they rent the space or what the tax sharing or rent revenue sharing agreement is.
Depending on what staff concludes in terms of their research, then I would say maybe a next step would be perhaps having the county CEO talk directly to the new city manager, but have that conversation, see what what the temperature is in terms of the city's interest. I know that they are facing a little bit more of a fiscal challenge than we are, but I just want to make sure we're not divorcing ourselves from the prospect of revenue that might be left on the table. Granted that there are going to be sensitivities to it that we want to be respectful of, but I think it's worth exploring.
So can I just ask a question on this one, just to make sure that I'm clear? So Rancho Cordova has a 3 to 4% gross receipt. So an event, and I'm not sure if the air show would be an example where it is they charge admission, and 3 to 4% gets taxed on top of that for the city. Is that correct? And they're working on an event center, so then it would be an additional 4% tax for any kind of
well, it depends on
anything.
it depends on what their ordinance establishes. If it's a fixed facility,
Got it.
then that's one thing. But if it's a special event that just comes in on a periodic basis, like you've been describing, that may or may not apply. We didn't dive that deep into evaluating how their taxes applied.
All right, thank you.
And Supervisor, can I add a couple things? As far as I understand, the air show is in the county. It's the county airport. But we'll double check on that. And Supervisor, just to state the obvious, I know you know this, with some of the concerts and some of the events that we have in Discovery Park, they invest, as a promoter, invest considerably into our parks too. So.
No, I understand that. That's something different.
Understand.
Okay.
So, again, in conclusion, as I mentioned, they all require voter approval. Some of them are easier to administer than others, and I touched on that a little bit. Some of them are more equitable than others. For example, a utility user tax is typically more regressive because lower income families pay a higher percentage of their salary on utilities than higher income, so it is more regressive. We've identified what some of the potential revenues are, and just so you understand, there would be an administrative cost to administer any one of these taxes, and whether it's your in-house staff or you contract out with an outside firm to do that. And some of them, as I mentioned, are much more difficult to administer than others. So that's pretty much the conclusion, and I will answer any further questions that you might have.
There's no one in the queue. Any requests to speak on this item?
We have no speakers signed up for this matter.
Okay, and it looks like we have a staff or Amanda.
Yes. Thank you, Ken, for the presentation. And I just wanted to circle back with where I started today. So really, we're coming with sort of here's a menu of opportunities that could be available. Our recommendation is for the board to direct staff to do further research, including some polling, understanding what level of voter support there might be for these types of tax measures, especially those that have the greatest potential to meet the county's funding needs, and what types of funding, what types of services and funding that there's voter support for. So that is our recommendation at this point. Again, doing research for a potential ballot measure no earlier than 2028, understanding that it would take some time to develop something that ultimately would be reflective of what has the required voter support. And just interested in feedback from the board on what's been presented.
All right, Supervisor Cerna.
Thank you, Chair. Amanda, when you say ballot measure for what exactly?
So all of the potential tax measures that Ken talked about require voter approval.
Understood. So
right.
You're talking just general.
Exactly. And
Okay.
I think what we're recommending as a next step is let's do some more research to understand, what has support, what could be successful, and what the county would need to do to build that support.
So I don't often like to do this, but I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to speak for Supervisor Desmond. So in the polling, please have your pollster be very careful, and others may have a different opinion, but I don't think so. Be very careful and make sure they understand the priority that's been in line for a long time now is Measure A and transportation. So I wouldn't want us to go too far afield of getting enamored with the prospect of other revenue sources without kind of understanding what's been in the queue for years now, and what is making some of us increasingly nervous that we're drawing to an end without the sequel here. So I think it's important that the wording, the phrasing of the poll be very, very calculated in terms of being respectful of that priority. Just some thoughts.
Understood. Thank you.
Supervisor Desmond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Supervisor Cerna, for that nod, because, yes, it does disproportionately affect District 3 residents, that's for sure. On the one thing that really jumps out at me is the TUT, as you talked about, how we don't have one in the unincorporated area. That's interesting. We're definitely an outlier. You mentioned that there could be some research done on what, if one were imposed in the unincorporated area, what the impact would be on non-residents there. Is that how difficult, how onerous would that be to get a sense of that? And I'm not saying I'm proposing anything right now. I just
Right.
would like the
No,
information.
we do those. In fact, right now, there's a lot of cities that are anticipating ballot measures in November. So right now, we're currently working on at least 5 or 6, and it's only $10,000 or something, and it takes about 4 to 6 weeks to do that.
Okay. I think that would be useful information for us in addition to the other items we've asked for follow-up on here today, because we're certainly an outlier with that, at least with that category. Thank you.
Any other comments? Some of my views here are, I'm very supportive of tackling some of the issues that are before us. I think for me, I hear so much about transportation and roads, and we had a discussion several meetings ago about a potential temporary 10-year tax, quarter cent that would generate our DOT about $30 million. Like, those are the things that I'm very favorable. I'm very supportive of doing polling just to get an idea of where our residents are. I will probably never support a general fund tax, because I think that when we address the problems and the issues that we have, I am supportive of that and keeping it temporary. But those are just some of my feedback on that. Any other comments? No? Okay. Any requests to speak on this item?
No speakers signed up.
Okay. Amanda, do you have sufficient information?
So the recommendation is to provide direction. If we could get that formal direction from the board, that would help us move forward.
Okay. So it sounds like polling is...
Direction to conduct further research. That's
Yes.
what we're asking for.
Yes. So just really quick, is that... okay. I'll talk to clerk. No, later. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All right.
That direction passed 5-0 unanimously.
Thank you, Supervisors.
Will the clerk please call the next item?
All right. The next timed item is number 34, Sidewalk Vending Ordinance 1-year update presentation.
Good morning, Chair
Good
Rodriguez
morning.
and members of the board. Chad Rindy, Director of Finance. And if we can get the PowerPoint up. So we're here before you today. We did adopt our sidewalk vending ordinance in January of 2025. And today we're here to give you a 1-year update on the actions we've taken and what we see ahead on this effort.
We're pulling up item 34 right now.
Got it. Good morning.
Good morning. All right, well, thank you for getting that up. We'll have several speakers for you. Sidewalk vending has definitely been a team effort. It touches a number of departments. I would encourage all of you, we'll have those speakers come up, but ask your questions as we go. Don't save them until the end where maybe you've forgotten your question or your thought. And I know you will not be shy.
We're pros at that. We are pros.
I've watched a meeting or two. So I'll give you a quick overview. We want to refresh on the scope of the ordinance, the responsibilities, talk about what we've done this last year in 2025, what's on the horizon for 2026, talk a little bit about the unique aspects for regional parks, and talk about where sidewalk vending intersects with private property, because there's quite a bit of intersectionality there that we've been working to address. And again, if you haven't answered your questions along the way, we'll have an opportunity at the end as well to bring any of us back up. So as far as the scope of the sidewalk vending ordinance, California law came out in 2018 with the Safe Sidewalk Vending Act that provided limitations on what counties could do. We were essentially required to permit sidewalk vending, but we could put certain time, place, and manner restrictions that were justified in place. Last January, we did bring forward Chapter 455, which is our sidewalk vending ordinance, and that contains our requirements associated with sidewalk vending. One thing I want to highlight and remind you of is that our sidewalk vending ordinance only applies to the unincorporated areas of the county. The cities have the ability to adopt their own ordinance, and the majority of the cities have adopted their own ordinances for what they allow as it pertains to sidewalk vending. Sidewalk vending is just that. It's vending in the public right-of-way. It's a person selling from a number of different devices, whether it's a push cart, a stand, a display, a pedal cart, a wagon, but it is on the public sidewalk or on the public right-of-way. So it does not involve private property that we'll talk about a little bit more at the end. And sidewalk vending, though most commonly we hear about food vending. It could involve other versions of vending, whether that's products, flowers, other things that you see. Sometimes you'll see that around the Valentine's holidays or certain holidays that you'll see vending of other materials. And we'll talk about private property vending at the end. So to get licensed for a sidewalk, to be a sidewalk vendor, we've tried to make this a low barrier to entry. It does require applying for a sidewalk vending license. The current cost is $69.
One moment. Supervisor Kennedy?
Sure.
Thank you, Chair. I apologize, Chad, I'm a couple slides back, but it doesn't matter, don't move back. Just a question on, just curious, cities have their own ordinances, we know that, but cities don't have their own EMD. So are we still charged with inspecting and even enforcing in cities, even though it's not our ordinance?
So business licensing, my team does not do any inspection of sidewalk vending in the incorporated areas, but you're right, EMD, environmental management, is a countywide responsibility. And so as it pertains to food, they do have that countywide responsibility. But that doesn't similarly apply to business licensing or code, where our responsibility kind of ends in the unincorporated area.
So, and I see Janaea back there nodding her head. So Janaea, I'll just ask you as well. Though Chad, you're doing a wonderful job.
Yeah. So when it comes to sidewalk vending, the time, place, and manner, that falls under the business licensing or economic development departments for the city, and in our case in the county, it would be Chad's team. The food safety portion is EMD, and that's countywide. So that health permit is that second permit or second license that is required on top of the business license to vend food.
And our guidelines, whatever we follow as far as food inspection and health inspection, all that is the same regardless of jurisdiction within the county.
Correct.
Thank you.
Supervisor Hume?
Thank you, Chair. And again, apologize for the interruption, but I just want to, this is the appropriate slide to bring it up. And it's relative somewhat tangentially to the last item we just heard, and that is, I've stated that in addition to some of the intangible impacts of sidewalk vending relative to community impacts, aesthetics, et cetera, obviously the health and safety portion is very important, but the other thing for me is the unlevel playing field that it creates for other businesses. Even food trucks are held to a higher standard. So my question is there anything within the provision of this business license and or other mechanism wherein we assure that payroll is being administered appropriately, sales taxes are being collected and distributed? I mean, is it kind of the Wild West, or is there some oversight of the operations of these vendors?
As part of the business license, we do require that they have a seller's permit with the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration, that is to remit sales tax. We do get quarterly reporting of those businesses that do remit sales tax. Our consultant HDL that was up here earlier does provide us quite a bit of data on that. If we do have concerns that a business should be remitting and isn't, there is a way that we can request an audit to be done. And so we do look at that on kind of the entirety of the business environment, but I don't know that we've done a specific focus to narrow in on this population of sidewalk vendors to make sure they're remitting sales tax.
Okay, and so there is the possibility, though, that we could cross-reference if a complaint is received to see whether or not that person has applied for a business license, has been submitting sales tax, et cetera, and at least playing by some of the same rules that we hold to our other businesses.
That is correct. And if we have concerns that the business is not following labor laws or not following payroll laws, those are within the state purview to enforce that as they collect the income tax. And they do oversee on that. So we do work with EDD when we do have labor law concerns pertaining to business to refer those over to them to investigate as well.
Thank you.
Supervisor Serna?
Thank you, Chair. A couple questions, maybe to put a finer point on Supervisor Hume's line of questioning. Is there, in the unincorporated area, is there any, at least review of a permit application to sidewalk vend any particular, especially food items, that are like or similar to literally what would be in front on the sidewalk in front of a brick and mortar? So hot dog vendor in front of a hot dog, restaurant, by way of example. Is there any consideration of that?
We did not implement restrictions to that degree. We did require that they are at least 100 feet away from any established outdoor dining area or other dining area. We did work closely with councils how much latitude the state provided as far as distancing, and we felt that that was an appropriate and justifiable distance. But we don't have things that regulate, like for like type of menus.
Okay. And then my other question is, do we have, and I don't know if I'm beating you to the punch with a future slide here, but have we given any thought to the fact that we have many commercial corridors in the county of Sacramento that serve as political boundaries between cities and the unincorporated county? And is there any special consideration, treatment, whether codified or not, about how we have expected differing protocols and expectations on one side, literally on one side of the street versus the other?
So we took into account that the majority of the cities are regulating sidewalk vending. It is a mobile business. I mean, we're talking about businesses that do move between jurisdictional boundaries. And so that is a challenge that they could set up in the county one weekend and they set up the next weekend within the city. And so we do have the benefit that fortunately EMD is a countywide entity, and so they are able to coordinate with both sides of city and county representatives. But that is something that we're still grappling with of will vendors gravitate toward an area that has less enforcement, and that is a risk. That's something we will need to continually monitor as this program continues.
Okay. Thank you.
So continuing on, I did talk about our licensing cost. The penalties for vending without a license are established within state law, and so we have adopted those. It does start, if you're licensed, at a $100 fine. It does start at a $250 fine if you're not licensed. This last year, we focused on education, outreach, getting people compliant. And so what you'll see in the numbers a little bit later is we really didn't focus on issuing notices of violation on the licensing side. We were focused on bringing people into compliance voluntarily. And there are reductions in the code for if someone does get a violation and they shortly after that do get licensed, the fine is substantially reduced for that violation. And then there is a process where they can request if they do receive a penalty. They can request if they have the inability to pay or they have financial hardship that we can look at their support and reduce the fine for that reason as well. I talked about a little.
Supervisor Desmond.
A quick follow-up. Thank you, Chad. I love the focus on education and reducing fines or maybe eliminating if someone subsequently becomes licensed. I think that's great. When you say how they reset after 1 year, is that unique to sidewalk vending, or is that something we apply in other contexts as well? When it comes to fines?
I don't know without researching how unique it is, but I know that it's statutory required that there is this kind of reset period. If you have a year without violations, you essentially go back to the first level of violation. I don't know that exists in every other scheme of if you have a continuing violation, whether if there's a certain time lapse it resets. Okay. That would be something we need to research.
That's all, but it's spelled out in the statute specific to sidewalk vending. Okay, thank you.
Yes. And we'll have representatives from other departments up here shortly, but in business licensing, it's our responsibility to issue the licenses. We are the primary entity for performing any inspections or enforcement of complaints regarding sidewalk vending. We do have 3 inspectors in my team, and our responsibility is really that on the sidewalk. And environmental management issues the health permits countywide. And they have the responsibility for ensuring they issue the health permits and perform any required inspections. We also have regional parks, which manage any concessions or any vendors that are permitted within the boundaries of our regional park system. Code enforcement enforces a broad array of county code and zoning codes throughout the unincorporated area. And they also do work to provide education to bring businesses into compliance. The Sheriff's Office is on standby if we have trespassing issues that arise, as well as if there are significant vendors that represent a safety concern where staff feel that they need additional resources to come with them to address those business issues. And then economic development has put significant effort into business outreach and helping us to outreach to the business community on this topic. And they are there as well for providing some additional assistance and handholding for those businesses that need it.
Supervisor Hume.
Thank you, Chair. Chad, I know that in the state legislation regarding safe sidewalk vending, it has provisions for relief of penalties based off of economic hardship, that they wouldn't be out selling the food on the sidewalk if they had money to do something differently. Does that apply across the board on all of these regulations and requirements, or are there standards such as the business licenses, such as the health inspections, wherein it's non-negotiable?
Yeah, the financial hardship only applies to the sidewalk vending license and the violations that pertain to that. It doesn't pertain to issues of private property or the health permit.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And so the next item, I'll bring up my division chief, Laura Jacobson, who supervises our business licensing division, and she'll talk a little bit about what we've done over the past year in more detail.
Thank you.
Good morning, members of the board. Laura Jacobson with the Department of Finance. Thank you. So we rolled the implementation out in 2 phases. Phase 1 covered 2025, and it was all about outreach and education. We created and implemented the vending program through multi-agency coordination, EMD, code enforcement, as Chad said, economic development, and business licensing. Educational fact sheets in English and Spanish were distributed at are available at permit counters. We hand them out during vendor interactions and at business and community events. In conjunction with economic development, we organized a sidewalk vending website to streamline permits and requirements. It's kind of comprehensive, so somebody can go there and see all the requirements to get to become a licensed vendor. Training videos in English and Spanish were created, and we conducted numerous free workshops, including one-on-one assistance for people who needed help getting. Thank you. Phase 2 is this year, 2026. We're still continuing the outreach and education, but now we're beginning the enforcement. Business licensing, generally, because we only have 3 inspectors for the entire county, based on complaints, and if they see vendors out, while they're out, they will stop and speak with them and give them the requirements to get licensed and permitted.
One moment. Supervisor Serna.
Thank you, Chair. So you mentioned English and Spanish, which I'm glad to hear that there's a sensitivity to the bilingual nature of what we know about food vending in our county. I'm just wondering, especially with in recent years, kind of the influx of the refugee population, are we seeing other attempted vending operations or activity that we would regulate, enforce, that aren't Spanish speakers? And if so, how are we responding to that?
So far, the majority of the vendors that have come into business licensing are Spanish speaking.
Okay.
So we haven't seen, we do have people in our office who speak other languages if they need assistance.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting that that might be the case, is that you just mentioned Spanish just because that's the, the primary other language besides English that is spoken by those that are seeking to function by the rules. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Kennedy.
With your limited resources as far as inspections and so forth, you said that you respond to complaints. At what level, as you said, you have very few people to do that. At what level does it reach where the threshold of going out and inspecting? I mean, not just a complaint. I mean, we get complaints in our office all the time. I mean,
right.
as we've seen District 2 as a fairly significant portion of these. And quite frankly, a lot of times we will vet them before we at all pass them on, because I find a lot of them are because the people who are making complaints lack cultural awareness, and sometimes there's, let's say, race involved with the complaints. So at what level does it reach a threshold? Because you can't go out on all of them.
Well, we actually get surprisingly few complaints through business
That's because
licensing.
the district offices are doing such a good
That's
job.
right. I think we received one or two in the last year. Inspectors go out on complaints that we receive through 311 and through any of your offices. So generally, it's if they're out in the field for the day and they see vendors, they will stop and speak with them, issue a notice of violation for them to get licensed. And they've gone out on 2 recent multi-agency inspections with EMD and code enforcement. So they've issued about 10 notices of violation. We've had 2 people come in the last week and apply for licenses. So it's helpful.
I just make a quick comment as well. Oh, I'm sorry, were you done, Supervisor? I really did appreciate the collaboration that took place with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce that I think it was early part of 24, where there were some workshops that were done. And so it was really reaching out to the Latino community to educate them on the process of sidewalk vending.
Yeah, we had a good turnout at those events as well. Code enforcement helps document locations and provides additional education and outreach to sidewalk vendor. They also support business licensing if we go out on those multi-agency inspections. And they support EMD with health permit enforcement operations. So like I said, we continue the outreach and education. So far, 1,684 business and community members have been reached through engagement at 14 community and business-focused events. 714 businesses and community members reached through 34 meetings with the PBEDs, the Chamber of Commerce organizations, and the Business Watch meetings. There are a lot of trainings and workshops. We've had 214 food entrepreneurs, community members, and business support organization attended 19 trainings and workshops, some in English and some in Spanish, and some with both. As I said earlier, a lot of outreach materials were created, and these are available at all of our departments. If they come into business licensing, we have them at the counter, they have them at EMD. There is a sidewalk vending webpage now that is linked through economic development through business licensing websites. There's a sidewalk vending video. It's about 8 minutes long and explains the process to get licensed and permitted. We have operational requirements in English and Spanish. The information to get permitted with EMD is also available in English and Spanish, and they also provide a risk of unsafe food vendors handout. And at the bottom, sidewalkvending.saccounty.gov is the website for sidewalk vending. So our outreach impact, business licensing, prior to 2025, nobody was licensed, there were no. We had 4 people come in January to June to get licensed. July through December was 7, and as I said, just in the last week, we've had 2 more people come in and get licensed. For our health permits, prior to January 25, EMD had 7, and the first half of 25, it was 13, second half was 9, for a total of 29 people.
I have a quick question about the licensing. So one of the things that was we talked about when we had this presentation a year ago is that there are certain setups that are very common. The red, it's the red hood. The setup is pretty much the same. I see them in several parts of the county. If somebody applies for a business license, they are the parent company. Does a license then apply to all of the different locations that they set up at?
No, so any vendor is allowed 1 license, so it can't be like a corporation comes in and get 15 licenses. So it has to be one person or one entity representing each location and we don't license the locations. They just tell us if they're stationary or if they're roaming vendors. Those are the 2 options, and we license everybody from their home or mailing address.
Thank you. Supervisor Hume?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to be clear, make sure I have it clear. The business license provision is only for vendors operating in the unincorporated county. If they're operating within a city, that would be the city's responsibility. And then we obviously have EMD responsibility in those municipal jurisdictions. Do we ever cross-reference to be sure that vendors that we are inspecting for health concerns do have the appropriate licensing with whomever the appropriate agency is? In other words, I'm looking at 4 vendors getting a business license, and I pass more than 4 vendors on a daily basis.
Yes, and that's why we continue the outreach and education portion, because a lot of people really don't know that they're required to have a license. So that's why we continue that portion. And that ends my portion of the presentation, so I'm going to pass it.
One moment. Were you done, Supervisor? Supervisor Desmond?
Thank you. I don't know, did you get an answer to that question? Because I'm not quite sure I heard one. So if it's, I guess this is more for Janaea. If it's someone you make contact with in the city of Rancho Cordova, for instance, does EMD check to see if they have a business license issued by that jurisdiction, right? Is that kind of what you're...
No, that's a great question. So my understanding, at least for Laura's group, is there's a hierarchy. And so for them to issue a business license, if it's food related, there needs to be a health permit that has been approved and been issued. So they will not issue a business license without that health permit. And so we would like to continue that with all of the jurisdictions, because that is necessary. And we don't also want to create a situation where businesses are obtaining a business license thinking they can operate, go to the health department, and we tell them, no, you can't operate in that way. So that is really the hierarchy, is health permit first and the business license after that.
You wouldn't necessarily know. And then on this slide here, Janaea, the health permit, I know the CMFOs, that's a broader universe than the sidewalk vendors that we regulate under our jurisdiction. Is this slide specific to unincorporated for health permits, or is this countywide?
This is countywide.
Okay, so the first row is unincorporated.
Correct.
The second, okay, so we're
correct. And they're not going to line up because of that it's unincorporated versus incorporated, and also business license can license merchandise sales as well for sidewalk vending, while EMD is only foods. So the intention of this slide is really to show that since the sidewalk vending ordinance has passed and we've done all this education and outreach efforts, that we are seeing businesses come in and obtain the correct license and permits.
Jeanette, I just want to get clarification on one thing. So oftentimes when you go to Golden One, you'll see about 20 hot dog carts. And so what you're telling me is every individual hot dog cart needs a license, but one person, one license, one cart. And it must be a different name, or can it be the same name? Because it sounds like it was one person, one license.
So for the city of Sacramento, they're at Golden One. They have their licensing process for business license, and I'm not sure exactly what that is. I can definitely research that. So they may license it a little bit differently than the unincorporated county. However, for the health permit portion, they do need to have a sticker. We issue a sticker on there that cart, so each one should have its own, that they've been permitted and their cart is good for sales. So that is a struggle. That's what we do a lot with our enforcement efforts when we partner with the city of Sacramento. Many of those carts are do not have a health permit, and so we need to have those enforcement actions.
And so in the unincorporated, is it one license, one person, one cart?
Correct.
And one person cannot have 3 different carts?
They may have 3 different carts, but they have to have a business license for each, and they need to have a health permit for each.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So let me move the slide forward. Okay, so my Jania Monasterio, Director for the Environmental Management Department, I'll be presenting the next few slides further discussing our implementation approach as we move into 2026, which is Phase 2, enforcement and continuing education and outreach for sidewalk vending. Okay. Before I talk about implementing Phase 2 this year, I just wanted to take a moment to reintroduce the health permit requirements for food sidewalk vending. Laura already presented about vendors need to have a business license in order to vend. In addition, sidewalk vendors selling food must also obtain a health permit from EMD. The health permits are required for vendors countywide, and the permit cost is $391 for a 1-year permit, and that includes an annual inspection. A violation to the health permit starts with a notice of violation for the first observance, $100 for the second, $200 for the third, and $500 for the next violations. And then they reset after 1 year from the issuance of the first. If requested, the ability pay must be considered. I would like to clarify, I think there was a question earlier about the business license resetting, and that's also true for the EMD health permit, but this is only valid for the compact mobile food operation health permit. That's not valid for any other health permit, just this particular one, because this one was developed, the CMFO, specifically for sidewalk vending, so the two would mirror. There is an exemption to the health permit, which is for vendors with 25 square feet or less of display area, selling only prepackaged, non-potentially hazardous foods and whole and cut produce. So examples of this are mangoes, strawberries, onions, melons, any kind of produce being sold, in addition to items prepackaged such as cookies, chips, soda, water. If a vendor is selling that with 25 square feet or less of display area, they do not need a health permit. Most complaints received regarding sidewalk vending are food related. EMD receives the bulk of complaints. So we are the entity that does the follow-up. The complaint data presented here is from EMD, and it represents both unincorporated and incorporated areas of the county. Sidewalk vending complaints remained steady between 2020 and 2022, was starting to see an increase in 2023 through 2024. We believe the rise in complaints is likely due to the new laws that were enacted that expanded sidewalk vending activities. In contrast, we see a decline in 2025, which we also believe may be attributed to the increase in education, outreach, and enforcement efforts. This map shows the distribution of food-related sidewalk vending complaints and the breakdown by supervisorial district. Each yellow dot represents a reported vending location. We use this information to better coordinate our outreach efforts by identifying locations popular for vending and ensuring we're reaching out to vendors to educate them on how to vend safely and legally.
One moment. Supervisor Desmond.
Jenny, it must be difficult dealing with District 2. Can you conjecture why there's such a problem?
District 2 is a popular spot, I will agree. All right. Okay. 2025 enforcement summary for sidewalk vendors. Phase 2 will include expanded enforcement efforts in addition to education and outreach. In 2025, county departments conducted numerous operations aimed at contacting sidewalk vendors to provide education about licensing and permitting. Enforcement actions occur for repeat noncompliance. Where food was observed to be contaminated or unfit for consumption, it was impounded and discarded. This is done to ensure public safety and health, and this is done to ensure public safety and health is maintained where food should not be consumed. Countywide, there were 36 total planned operations. A total of 10,577 pounds of food were condemned and discarded, which equals about 5.3 tons. 36 citations were issued by EMD. As we move into 2026 and Phase 2, additional operations are planned to continue, educating sidewalk vendors as well as expanding enforcement actions for vendors with repeat violations. Our standard practice is always to provide education first.
Janae, I just want to say that over the past year, there have been several social media recordings that have gone out where our EMD has gone out and they've discarded food. And so I always look at like what is the actions of the county and how do we treat individuals. And it's always been very professional. And so I just want to give your team kudos for that. There are people, the individuals who are impacted, respond very well. But your team has done a really great job, and that's the one thing of social media is you get public videos that really show. But your team does a great job. Supervisor Kennedy.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to follow up with that and make the disclaimer that a lot of the social media things that we've seen aren't EMD. They're the other local jurisdictions and sometimes law enforcement and others, but they're not always. Matter of fact, more times than not, they're not EMD. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Since sidewalk vendors are mobile, they operate in both unincorporated and incorporated areas of county, so coordination between county and city enforcement teams are essential. All right. So building on phase 2, there are some consideration for future efforts. Implementing the sidewalk vending ordinance is a long-term effort. County code enforcement, business licensing, and EMD have begun coordinating their operations to provide these small micro businesses with educational materials and, when necessary, carry out enforcement actions. As enforcement needs evolve, additional funding may be required. Education and outreach efforts to date have been largely successful. Education workshops are designed to help prospective vendors understand the sidewalk vending ordinance and how to obtain a health permit. Additionally, staff attended various community events, business group meetings throughout the year, and these outreach and education efforts are planned to continue into 2026. Sidewalk vending now has a dedicated and interactive webpage, providing a one-stop for business owners, linking them with various departments, application packages, and up-to-date information. I wanted to thank the Economic Development Department for putting that webpage together and providing that valuable resource to the vending community. Education materials are provided in English and Spanish, as well as one-on-one consultation with applicants. As the needs evolve and more in-language needs are known, then we are looking to expanding that and make sure that we address all of those needs as they become relevant. Our goal is to provide all the necessary resources to help businesses obtain the required licenses and permits to operate legally and safely.
One moment. Supervisor Hume?
Yeah, Chair, I just wanted to thank you for your efforts, I think for your pragmatism. You have heard the complaints and you kind of understand some of the frustrations, but you are very careful to stay within your lane of what you're charged to do and the permissions you have. And so I just wanted to recognize that we're in a very different place this year than we were last year, and according to that last slide, potentially we'll be in an even better place come next year. So thank you for your continued efforts.
And next, Liz Bellis will be talking about regional parks.
Good morning, Liz Bellis, Director of Regional Parks. Just a quick update for you guys. So we've been monitoring our park system to see if there was an uptick in sidewalk vending, and there has not been. We also met with Senator Nilo's office. We had some stakeholders who have said, have very different views on the American River Parkway. We did ask Senator Nilo's office if we thought we might be able to get a legislative council review on the state laws regarding the American River Parkway. They said they wouldn't want to have such a focused view, but if we could talk to other open space districts where they also felt that there was a clarity needed for open space, they'd be happy to look into that. I did reaching out to a bunch of open space districts. No one has said that they also need additional clarity, so we are not moving forward with that. We do have a subcommittee. We've been working on identifying areas within the regional park facilities which would meet appropriate time, place, and manner restrictions. We have drafted an RFP that has been completed, is under review. Our efforts are paused at the moment because of a request from a legal counsel of one of our stakeholder organizations to meet and discuss further. And that's all I have. Any questions for me?
Questions? Thank you,
Fabulous.
Liz.
Thank you.
Good morning, Wendy Hartman with Planning and Environmental Review. So most of the presentation has focused on vending on public property, the right-of-ways and sidewalks, but as you are all aware, many times the vendors start to encroach on private property. So since 1978, the county zoning code has regulated temporary concessions on private property, and temporary concessions include, Temporary concessions include stands, carts, tables, tents, and more recently, compact mobile food operations. They are currently located within Sacramento County Zoning Code Section 3.10.3.E. And some of the permits that are required in order to operate on private property include a temporary use permit from Planning and Environmental Review. If the person is selling food for immediate consumption, the approval authority is the Planning Commission. If they are selling other products such as flowers, phones, or other merchandise, then the approval authority is the zoning administrator, which is an administrative level permit review with no public hearing or notification required. So that is different than the one selling food, which goes to the Planning Commission. As previously discussed with the sidewalk vendors, on private property, they also need a business license, and it would be a separate business license if they are operating on both sidewalks as well as private property, because it's a different type of business license. But they would be able to use the same health permit if selling food from both streets and sidewalks as well as on private property.
One moment. Supervisor Kennedy.
Thank you. Just for clarification, so temporary use permit says if selling food or for immediate consumption, approval authority is needed at the Planning Commission. Some of these, maybe I'm totally wrong, but it takes a while to get on a Planning Commission agenda, if I'm correct.
Correct.
So, these things aren't things that sometimes are planned months out. So how do you deal with that?
So we've had very few people move forward with actually legally getting their permits to operate on private property. I did do a little research on the history of temporary concessions. And so when the ordinance was first written, it was silent on food consumption. And then in 1983, the board adopted an amendment to the ordinance actually prohibiting food sales of any type on private property. And then that was amended again in the 2015 zoning code update, which was a significant update of the zoning code. And at that time, that's where the Planning Commission provision came in. And there's a finding that has to be made that kind of, I believe, addressed a little bit of Supervisor Cerna's comment about the brick and mortars. And so there's a finding for folks serving food on private property that there's difficulty or not availability of restaurants or ability to have a food truck at that location. So it is a high standard to hit that Planning Commission meeting, but in 2015 it was somewhat purposeful as a means of not prohibiting them from selling food, but making sure that they weren't competing with those that were brick and mortar restaurants.
Okay, so this is 2026.
Correct.
And I think that high bar is too high. I'm perhaps jumping the gun and making comments now, but I think that we're encouraging people to, work around the rules if we set the rules so high that they're almost impossible to meet. And a Planning Commission approval for a temporary permit of this kind, I think, is unreasonable, and we should look at some other kind of approval at the administrative level. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I wrote that note down. Let's see. So the zoning code also includes a number of application and operational requirements. One of the things that's required is that all aspects of the vending operation be removed each day when the vending operator is not actively operating on the site. The application requires notarized written permission from the property owner or leasee, as well as signatures and current contact information of responsible parties. And they are required to keep a copy of that information and their approved temporary use permit on the cart or on their person, so that if an inspector or somebody comes by, they can show that they've received their temporary use permit. There are setback requirements to ensure from public right-of-ways to ensure that there's no impact of vehicles backing up onto streets or blocking clear vision triangles along driveway entrances. There's currently a restriction of no more than one temporary concession vendor per parcel. They have to provide at least one trash enclosure. With recent changes in organics, if you're a food vendor, you may be required to have more than one trash enclosure as part of your operation. They have to have access to a restroom, and the area used for sales is limited to 200 square feet. With that being said, we do have some types of uses that are exempt from these requirements and from attaining a temporary use permit, and those include the fireworks stands, nonprofit organizations, as long as they're operating within the buildable area of a commercial or industrial lot. So they're usually the ones gathering signatures or selling Girl Scout cookies close to the entrances of those commercial businesses. And then concessions that are accessory to a shopping center or mall, typically within their building or within their plaza areas. All right. Similar with sidewalk vending, we also worked with economic development to help us put together a really nice looking brochure. I do have extra copies here if the board members would like a copy. We're working on having it translated into Spanish. And this brochure was also done in coordination with licensing department, code enforcement, and EMD, and has information on how to contact each of those departments for their permits and requirements. And then lastly, the Planning Environmental Review Division is working on a pretty significant update to our zoning code. It's the 2023 update. And one of the items that we are looking at is updates to our temporary concessions section, better clarifying what particularly mobile food facilities are allowed to do on private property. We're somewhat silent on them right now, and most of the complaints that planning has received, along with our code enforcement, have been related to operations of both the mobile vendors as well as kind of the pop-up kitchens on vacant, unimproved property. So we're addressing that. Updates for consistency between the zoning code and county code, updating terminology, things of that nature. And then looking to limit vending to sites with active institutional, commercial, or industrial uses or non-residential vacant sites. Similar to the sidewalk vending ordinances, you can prohibit these activities from being in residential areas, so kind of keeping them in our more commercial areas. And then providing some standards regarding hours of operation. Noise is one of the complaints we get, especially if they're playing music. Issues with circulation and emergency access. And I have a note to look at the level of permitting for different types of vending for the update.
Supervisor Serna?
Thank you, Chair. You mentioned, I believe you just mentioned that you're looking at the permitting and regulating for activity on non-residential vacant sites. What about vacant mixed-use sites that might be intermixed along, let's say, a commercial corridor?
That's a good question. The biggest thing is we have concerns with folks operating on sites that are both vacant and undeveloped. So at a minimum, we want them to have an approved access and at least some paved hardscape area for them to set up on. Mixed use would probably fall more in the commercial area, but I can look and make sure that we address that. Are you thinking that it should be allowed in mixed use?
I think so. I mean, I have to believe that we have some instances somewhere that are citable that where you do have mixed use that is, part of the street-facing character of a commercial corridor somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Just in the interest of covering your bases. That's the reason I bring it up.
I unfortunately did not bring the draft of the use table, and I don't think I spelled it out in the draft language that I brought down with me. But most of the draft language really focused on kind of some of the concerns we've been hearing with noise, location, things of that nature.
Yeah, I see nodding heads behind you, so I trust that you'll take my comments to heart and
Yep.
do the appropriate thing. There you go.
All right, any other comments from me?
No.
All right, then
Thank you,
I'm
Wendy.
bringing up the show closer, which is code enforcement.
Good
Hello,
morning,
members
Michael.
of the board. Mike Sanchez, Chief of Code Enforcement. So I have a slide just to kind of go over some of our private property enforcement that I was just explaining, the temporary concessions. So we have 2 avenues of enforcement, proactive, and then of course complaint and referral. Generally, with private property enforcement, we enforce against the property owners. So we will send out an advisory or a warning notice that is mailed upon the case activation, and that is given a 15-day timeline for the property to voluntarily come into compliance. Inspections are generally conducted in 15 to 30-day intervals, and the initial inspection fee is $470. Reinspection fees, if violations are present, are $335 plus IT fees. We also have the ability to hand out administrative penalties, and these fees can accrue per day, and these would likely be given towards the vendors themselves. And it's $100 for the first penalty, $200 for the second penalty, $500 for the third, and subsequent penalties. And generally, the violations must be witnessed daily for these fees to accrue.
One moment. Supervisor Serna?
Thank you, Chair. The advisory warning notice, when that is mailed out, is it standard in English and in Spanish?
No, so as of right now, it is strictly in English.
So if I'm a Spanish-speaking only vendor who has been issued or has activated a case, and I have difficulty, or maybe great difficulty in reading English, and therefore I kind of, it doesn't stand out as something that I need to act upon immediately, and let's just continue with this example. They don't correct the action, and then it becomes a citation. Now they're looking at multiple hundreds of dollars in fines or a violation fee. And it all can be traced back to the fact that there was a language barrier. I would suggest that practice change so that you send out that advisory warning notice at least in English and Spanish.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. So normally the warning notice goes directly to the property owner and not the vendor itself. So the secondary enforcement with the Spanish and the brochures would come to the vendor when we conduct the inspection. But
Yeah.
I definitely understand that point of view.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So as of right now, code is the main lead on the on-property inspections. We currently have about 20 active cases, and we've been conducting after-hours inspections as of late to enforce against both on-property as well as these sidewalk vendors with the other agencies. These generally are multi-agency inspections due to the food, the business licensing, and other issues. And so that's all I got for the private property enforcement.
So, Mike, I have a question. When oftentimes, well, what I've seen in certain parts of the district is they will go from private to then the sidewalk, which is now public. And so the enforcement still applies only on a different level because now you're impeding the public's ability to walk through the sidewalk.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Supervisor Desmond?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is the last slide, I think?
Yes.
Okay. Well, gosh, I think most of us became county supervisors so we could focus on simple things like, solving homelessness and delivering social services to the most vulnerable, not on complex things like this that city councils deal with. But this is a great discussion, and I really appreciate all the work you've put into this. And I think what we've seen since we started this discussion, late in 2024. So you've done a tremendous amount of work. This is great. And I really appreciate the focus on education. And any regulatory scheme, whether it's business licensing or EMD, whatever it is, I mean, you have to lead with education. And I also agree with Supervisor Kennedy's sentiment about making it easier to get that use permit on private property. Because if it's so onerous, if the regulatory scheme is so onerous, people are just going to disregard it altogether. So really appreciate that. So Mike, I appreciate the last thing you mentioned about code as kind of the lead when it comes to kind of coordinating these efforts. And I'm glad to provide you, opportunities to all come together, like at El Camino in Fulton, Troy, where everybody can come together and work on these things. But can you describe a little bit about some of those enforcement efforts? And in particular, most of these arise after hours and on weekends for these organizations. Can you describe a little bit about those after hours and weekend efforts to do some of that enforcement?
Yeah, so over the past 2 weeks, we actually conducted 2 operations: code enforcement, business licensing, and environmental management. Essentially, we choose a general location. All the officers will meet at one central location, a safe location nearby, and then we make our way out to the corridors where the vendors may be. It is a little difficult at times to say they might be there, they might not, they can move. So it's generally a drive around and look for them to see where they're at. Once a location is identified, all agencies will get out and have a conversation with that vendor, provide them the outreach, educational materials, and ask them to pack up and leave if they are not legal. So it's kind of just to drive around and find people where they're at, document all of the information, and then enforce based on what we have.
Okay, but we are able to dedicate some of these inspection resources on weekends and evenings. I mean, because I know we've heard that in the past, that's, hey, people don't work after 5 o'clock, and well, that's when these issues happen. I don't know if anybody else. Dave, you made eye contact with me, Dave, so.
Trying to turn my microphone on. There we go. I did it. So Dave DeFonte, Deputy County Executive. We are able to do that to an extent, and we have, as Mike alluded to, done some after-hours activities. I think part of the discussion may be moving forward, how much of that the board wants to see. And then we can always come back, given resources we have and, what we might be able to shift around internally if the board wants to see more of those after-hours activities. Obviously the budget's always an upcoming conversation as well. But we have been able to do a number of those over the last year. I can't recall the count. Maybe you have it off the top of your head, but we have been active.
Yeah, no, I don't have the count for the last year in total. I just know basically off the last month that we've kind of started the enforcement. The plan moving forward, budget restraints and all that aside, we plan to do 2 a month. That is what we are looking forward to. That's kind of what the other jurisdictions are able to manage as well. And just trying to make that work the best we can.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. I just want to make sure we have a sensitivity. And this is a unique, this subject matter we're talking about. I mean, you have EMD that falls under your Deputy County Exec Siobhan, code enforcement falls under Dave DeFonte, and business licensing that falls under Sylvester or whomever. So I imagine it's inherently difficult to, kind of herd all the cats. I'm not suggesting any of you are cats, but you understand. The other question I had, so this is for Janaea, I guess. With all the licensed CMFOs, is there any way you could provide me with a list of maybe, if you could break it down by district, the ones that are licensed, and if it's possible, if they're licensed under EMD, can you cross-reference and see what other licensure they have, either a use permit or a whatever permanent business license they have also. That'd be really helpful for me as I'm, Vanessa and I are driving around and we see something, we can before we even bother you, we know who's already been licensed, who's already on your radar. Is that possible to do?
So when we issue a health permit license or a permit, we record the address of the mailing address of the owner. So we don't necessarily collect the information of where they'll be vending.
The location, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
But we can share, other information. We can share the complaint data. If we kind of know where they're, I can talk to the team and see which ones tend to vend in certain areas, and I think that would be helpful so you know. Also, please refer to us just directly. Any vendors that you see, we are happy to take a look and make sure that they're permitted with us. And then also to check it that they have a sticker. So they should have a sticker affixed. So, and that's kind of hard to see as you're driving by. But we're happy to help out. Like if you see any, just let us know. But I'll collect what we have and send it over to you.
Okay, and you know, I apologize for taking up so much of your time, but the ones that I normally hear about are the ones that are on the public right-of-way, and they sometimes bleed actually into a roadway and generate maybe, you know, a lot of trash on a sidewalk, obstruct the access on a sidewalk. It's those, and it's the ones on the private property that get bigger and bigger and bigger, and oftentimes it's private property that's vacant or has been vacant for a considerable amount of time. And then the last thing I would ask, you know, Jania, I know, you know, all of us probably get hit up by our colleagues, our dear friends at the Sacramento City Council about this, you know, asking for more and more information about it. Can you describe a little bit of your interaction with them? Have you provided this PowerPoint or provided an EMD presentation or offered it up perhaps at the Sacramento City Council? Would that be helpful? Because I find that when they ask me questions, they don't really understand the structure and how EMD works vis-a-vis their own code enforcement and business
I think that
licensing.
would be a great way for us to further expand the program and ensure that we are all working for that same goal. So to date, we haven't done too much of that in terms of that public facing, but I think as we move into this phase 2 with this expanded education and outreach and enforcement, I think that would be a perfect opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's helpful for them to understand how everybody works together. Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, I have a couple more questions. Supervisor Kennedy?
Thank you, Chair. So sidewalk vending sounds like, all right, it's not a big issue, but it is a big issue to a lot of people. It's a big issue to certain areas of the county more than others, and District 2 is one where it is a big issue and it's important. From the perspective of the vendor, you have people bringing their culture to Sacramento County. I never want to compromise health and safety. And, you know, Jenny and I have had these conversations many times that, you know, as much as I'm a forceful advocate for these vendors, you still have to keep in mind public health, number one. But I do want to say that I appreciate the approach that we've taken as opposed to other jurisdictions as far as a more balanced approach. In South Sacramento, you drive down, you see them all the time, every day. To me, they're not a nuisance. To me, they're not something that's just there adding to a problem. They're there creating a culture that is unique. It's one of the many things that makes District 2 so much of a more welcoming, better place to live than District 3, for example. So I hope that we will continue to apply that balance and work with what are essentially across the board most of the time hardworking people who just want to make a living while sharing their culture and making Sacramento a unique place of diversity. So my 2 cents. Thank you.
Supervisor Hume?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, let me just pick up on those comments and say I appreciate the intent behind what the state legislation was as far as providing that economic opportunity and folks to have a stronger foothold towards prosperity in their life. And I encourage that and hope that they realize that. And again, a lot of my concern is that we create an unlevel situation wherein folks who have made a greater investment and are participating more fully are somehow feel penalized or undercut. And that's just a sensitivity that I think we have to keep at the forefront. But the only reason why I really wanted to chime in is just simply extend the gratitude that I express for Janaea and her department to all of you that are working on this. I know that it is a many-headed beast, as Supervisor Desmond pointed out, that has no easy answers, and it does have varying effects to the community. In some places it's celebrated as an expression of culture. In other places it's seen as a unfair competitive advantage, and in some places it's just simply viewed more of a nuisance from an aesthetic standpoint or from a kind of the community benefit standpoint. So it is difficult work, and I just appreciate what we're doing, and I do appreciate the approach we have of really trying to play by the rules as whatever they are. And I think my question was answered that they do have posting requirements, much like we would require in a restaurant where they post their business license, they post their EMD inspection results.
That is correct. So they do have a sticker, so they are required to put a sticker and it has the year on it, and that is their valid permit for that calendar year. As opposed to like a green, yellow, red placard, they are not required to post that, but they just need to have the sticker that they're permitted.
And is it clearly stated where that sticker needs to be posted so that it's visible?
Visible, correct.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
And I just want to share my last comments is I really do appreciate the work that you all do to ensure the safety of the public. I used to get a lot of questions a year ago and even actually before that. And so Mike, I appreciated you and your team coming out to my community meetings and sharing just the work that you guys do and the follow-up that happens, and to for the community members to share, some of the reasons why they have issues when the sidewalk is blocked. So thank you all. All right. Any public speakers on this item?
None.
Okay, so this is a presentation only. Yes. So thank you all for coming here and giving us very informative information. Okay, will the clerk please call the next item?
All right, the next item is timed item number 35, the Sac Metro Ordinance 2025-02, adopting and amending the 2025 California Fire Code Title 24. California Code of Regulations, Part 9.
Morning, Supervisor Rodriguez and members of the board. My name is Troy Givens. I'm the Community Development Director for Sacramento County. Item 35 is a request to ratify the new fire code, including local amendments as approved by the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire Board. As you may recall, this item comes to your board for a vote every 3 years. There has been some procedural changes this year. So from the last time that you heard this, the Board of Supervisors was the first body to act on this, and then the subsequent fire district would ratify your board's actions. In this case, after consultation with the districts, they indicated that the fire boards should actually be the first entity to take action, and your board be then the entity to ratify. So for this item, our Assistant Chief Building Official, Bob Ivy, who's in the audience, and our Chief Building Official, Greg Mahoney, have prepared this staff report and done a great job of getting this item ready for your consideration. And part of this process included coordination with county staff, the BIA, and other members of the building industry in coordination with this process in order to tee this up for your consideration. So with that, I know as the hour is getting a little bit late, I'll be brief in my comments and introduce Fire Marshal Amy Nygren from Metro Fire to give a brief overview of their process and answer any questions that you might have.
I'm going to go ahead and say good afternoon because it's close enough.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Chair Rodriguez and Board. Amy Nygren. I'm the Fire Marshal for the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District. Like discussed, this is a little different this year. This is a Metro Fire Ordinance. What we looked at is the Health and Safety Code, which drove because we are a special district, we should have had our own ordinance to begin with. Metro Fire does cover most of the unincorporated areas of Sacramento County, as well as the city of Citrus Heights and the city of Rancho Cordova. With that, and this new ordinance, we met with many county staff early on in the process, as well as Citrus Heights and Rancho Cordova, to hear their concerns from the beginning and what they wanted to see out of this ordinance. And then after that, we met with our local agencies, Consumnes, Sacramento, West Sacramento, Folsom. We try to collaborate as fire agencies to make sure that we're trying to be as coordinated as we can. With that, Metro Fire approved our ordinance back in November, and they have been approved through or ratified through Citrus Heights and Rancho Cordova, and we are here today to finish the process. There's a couple highlights that I wanted to point out that we made changes with. Many items were removed and converted to standards. So a standard is something that clarifies the fire code. It'll state in there as per the fire code official or the fire chief, something like an address size. So instead of making that an ordinance, we can convert that to a local standard so we can adjust those based on need. Another major change was a 13R fire sprinkler system. It's a more affordable option and common in multifamily dwellings. It focuses on life safety as opposed to property protection. So this is something that's very new to Metro Fire. Consumnes Fire had that on their ordinance last year, that they allowed the use of this sprinkler system. So we took a lot of lead from them on this particular item, and we are now allowing a 13R system within Metro Fire's jurisdiction. We also heard a lot about redevelopment, the challenges that we had in our previous ordinance about redevelopment and when sprinklers were required. This time around, we're allowing a greater flexibility when you're adding on or having an addition onto your building, or change of occupancy is a little more limited. So things like an assembly would have to have a sprinkler system installed, whereas a change of occupancy, maybe from a business to a mercantile, a small market type situation, you wouldn't necessarily have to change that to sprinklers. So we are trying to be more redevelopment friendly. And the last one is a water supply during construction. We heard a lot of concerns from the building industry about water supply and what our needs were. We worked very heavily with our operations division. This was driven from them, the approval to move forward with this. The code requires a permanent or temporary water supply. For the entire time Metro Fire has been in existence, we required a permanent water supply, which means all your hydrants have to be in and your roadways have to be in prior to storing or beginning construction.
One moment, Amy.
Yep.
Supervisor Serna?
Thank you, Chair. So in terms of and I expect we're going to hear from the BIA here shortly, but in terms of Metro Fire's disposition on temp water, or a water supply during construction, I should say. Mm-hmm. The way that your special district is looking at it, and just I'm asking the question for clarity, sure. So correct me if I'm off base here, is that it would not require the exercise of an exemption. Is that Metro Fire's disposition on that in terms of how it's permitted?
So it doesn't require an exemption.
Okay.
We're following model code on
Right.
this particular
So
item.
state, right?
So state code, correct.
So what is I mean, from your professional perspective, does that pose any procedural adverse consequence to the permitting agency? I mean, I guess what I'm asking is, from your perspective, why would a different sister fire district go that direction, and what value do you get out of it in terms of the regulation?
Really, it comes down to operations. That's how Metro Fire looked at it, and what our crews could affect on a response and how they respond to scenes. Mm-hmm. What was available to them in the system. Again, we've had that in place, a permanent water supply, for 25 years. Mm-hmm. And really looking at it, and again, collaboration with our operations division to determine, can we reduce it to what is temporary and what the code requires. We do have a standard that we developed to assist the building industry with those requirements, what that looks like. Temporary meaning the type of tank they have, the size of the tank they have, the connections that we can foster within our division as well. So that's how we looked at it. Other agencies, I think it would have to be operationally based as well.
So does that include then differences in the jurisdiction of that sister fire district that has a different circumstance in terms of water supply, that might be what is driving a decision to go over and above state?
I think that would be a question for them,
okay.
What their operational capabilities would be.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to wrap my brain around what I learned in the briefing yesterday, and I before I come to any conclusions on this, I want to understand what are the nuanced differences between, I guess, districts in terms of their water supply and other factors that would encourage an exemption process versus just going with the state.
Yeah, that temporary water supply would be bringing in a supply for us to use during operation. A lot of times what we have is the systems are starting to be installed or they're currently installed, and we're waiting for the testing and chlorination and things to happen. And that can take 4 to 6 weeks sometimes, a delay for that to be a permanent system. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times it is bringing in that water supply, and if it's available. That's where we're working with, our operations division. Are they able to supply the necessary response to those areas? Can we work with a temporary water supply? Will we even use a temporary tank during response? Those are the questions we asked our operations division to make sure that we could say, yes, we can go temporary.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Supervisor Hume.
Thank you, Chair. And I know we have county staff here that's maybe able to answer this question more fully, but in researching whether or not to incorporate this change or update to your code to follow the model code, is there been any experience wherein county departments, maybe in their approval or efforts to get the infrastructure in place, have been an impediment toward that permanent water supply?
No, really, it's just the timing of that installation and then testing. It hasn't been an impediment on ours with us.
Okay, and so it really comes down to maybe the builder developer wanting to get a jump on going vertical while other improvements are being put into place.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And with that, those were our major changes. Really focusing on development and redevelopment and what we can do to help. And with that, I'll answer any additional questions or request ratification.
There are no other requests to speak right now.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Are there any public comments?
We do. We have public speakers for this item. Number 35, first up, Chris Norum.
Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. Afternoon.
Good afternoon. Sorry.
Board members, Chris Norum, North State Building Industry Association, actually here in support of this item. I just want to thank Chief Nygren. We worked closely with her for the last year trying to navigate this, what was in code and being enforced as this permanent water source and how difficult that was for some of our builders to overcome. So we had to kind of work out this kind of a way of finessing this issue, and then now we have a code that's going to be formally adopted that we're in support of. State law does allow for temporary water sources. The only other place that we're aware of that had this permanent water source requirement that was being enforced was Consumnes, which we're going to talk about in another minute. But I did research all over the whole state, and no other place requires a permanent water source only. And so even more fire-prone regions of the state that had severe fire threat didn't require only a permanent water source. So we're thankful for the flexibility of being able to have a temporary water source on site. We know that housing is a priority for the board, for our community, and just want to make things flexible enough to get going. These are situations where we basically just have foundations. We don't have a lot of, we're beginning construction, and it's just a matter of bringing the water system online. So happy to support this item, and thank you for your time.
Don't go away, Chris. Sorry.
Do you have a question for Chris? No, I was going to make a Okay. All right. Supervisor Cerna.
Thank you, Chair. Chris, you heard at the introduction of the item that we're doing things in kind of reverse order this time in terms of the sequencing of the fire district's consideration versus the county's consideration. Did the BIA have some early discussions with Consumnes when you first understood that they wanted to go over and above state in terms of permanent water source?
We did.
And what was kind of the rationale that you understood that contributed to their interest in doing that? Since you said it was like the only place in the state that is pursuing it.
We've heard various things. I mean, parts of it saying that that they felt very strongly, but this was a public safety message that they needed to have. And then subsequently, we heard that some of the other boards, Elk Grove and others, encouraged them to kind of work something out with us. So they then had said that we're going to come up with a program where we can do one-off exemptions if you can apply. We're going to start working on that criteria. Mm-hmm. And so. This is out of the item order, but it's our position that we shouldn't be having to apply on a case-by-case basis in order to follow a standard that everyone else in the rest of the state automatically gets to follow.
Mm-hmm. So the way I understand it is it just you don't want to have your members have to incur the additional time, effort to basically pursue an exemption for every project.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And I know that We may hear from others, but I only saw your name in the queue, so that's why I'm asking you about their disposition.
Sure, and I want to make sure it's clear that we support public safety. We don't want to have anyone be in danger. We acknowledge their critical role in the community and want to have a collaborative relationship. This is something we just disagree on. We're hoping to hopefully eventually work something out, but that's just where we're at with it, trying to make sure things get processed and built in a timely fashion.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Supervisor Desmond?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since no more public speakers, I would first thank Chief Nygren for being here. It's always great to see you here in our chambers. Appreciate the work you do for Sacramento Fire in the county. And with that, I would move to ratify Sacramento Fire's Fire Code Ordinance pursuant to the Health and Safety Code section.
All right, please vote.
Resolution is ratified 5-0.
Okay, will the clerk please call the next item?
The next item is timed item number 36, the Cosumnes Fire Department Ordinance number 23, an ordinance to fire prevention adopting and amending 2025 California Fire Code, Title 24, California Code of Regulations, Part 9.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Similar to the last item, the Cosumnes Fire Code is on a 3-year cycle. The Cosumnes Board acted on the fire code in late 2025. The difference that we would like to highlight is something that's already come up here in the previous discussion, which is provisions for water supply for fire protection that applies when combustible materials arrive on site or that the commencement of vertical construction. State code allows for a temporary or permanent water supply. Cosumnes has been using a local amendment since 1992 that allows for a permanent supply, and they've been able to work through an exception process previously to allow projects to move forward. But we do have Fire Marshal Ray here that can speak more specifically to the language that they've approved and their rationale on that. And we also have members of the Building Industry Association that have communicated to the county their desire to advocate. And you've just heard the position from Mr. Norum about deferring to the standard code for the state of California. With that, I'll invite Fire Marshal Ray up to talk about their process and their position on the issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. My first time here at the Board of Supervisors. I'm going to dispense with the portion that Chief Nygren talked about with all the changes. We don't really have anything that stands out that would change, and just talk about the temporary water supply, if that's okay with the board. Our process began quite a bit later than Sac Metro Fire, so we were made aware of this. You heard the gentleman mention that it was they'd been working on it for some time. We found out about it after we presented our code in late September. There was a conversation between myself and a different BIA rep, and at that time we were under the impression it was focused on model home starts. We routinely start model home projects in Elk Grove and Galt without the permanent water supply in place. It's one of our things that we've been doing for many years. And apologies to the legal counsel here, but I'll use the term by right. That's the difference. So it's just not by right. You're going to coordinate with the fire department. We evaluate exposures. We evaluate how long it's going to be, how much of a structure is going to be on the site, things like that as we do that. So again, not by right, but done with our input. After September, we did not hear back from the BIA, and we actually took forward our ordinance with provisions to allow the model homes to develop a by right without a temporary or without a permanent water supply. We thought we were addressing the issue. After the first reading of the ordinance, and you can, being in your spots, you know these are very, very quick. We got a very short time frame. We were made aware that we didn't hit the mark that the BIA was looking for, and they wanted to revert to model code. Going back slightly is when we first heard about this issue, our concern is for multifamily projects. In Elk Grove, in Galt, we were building multifamily projects adjacent to existing neighborhoods. With the model language in the code, it was our assessment, and we did the same thing when we had the time. We worked with our operations people. We did not want some of these larger wood frame buildings that close to existing residential without a permanent water supply or a temporary water supply that we had a say in. So it's just that level of safety that we were trying to achieve. In my jurisdiction, we made the determination that we were comfortable with the way we've done things since 1992, and we weren't made aware of any projects that were actually delayed in our jurisdiction by this. And so our board and then subsequently the city councils went ahead and adopted as is, basically as it's been since 1992.
I have a question from Supervisor Hume.
Not a question.
Just a comment.
Just comments. Thank you for that. Excuse me. Thank you for that presentation. After public comment, I'll go ahead and make my comments.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Supervisor Serna.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for being here. Appreciate your testimony. So I'm curious, though, about what you just referenced in terms of kind of, because I didn't hear another reason. I'm not suggesting that there aren't other reasons, but you only gave us the one example where you have large multifamily wood frame construction that's occurring next to or very close to, I presume, either occupied or about to be occupied residences, and that, therefore, if I heard you correctly, that's why there was this growing interest in having permanent water supply at that point in time. Is that, do I have those, did I hear you correctly?
I think that's the reason that we chose not to change back to the
Right.
model code. We've had
Right.
that requirement for many years.
Gotcha. Okay. So, was there any discussion with the BIA representative or representatives about looking at maybe a slightly different process or consideration, because not every proposed development is going to be that circumstance. Not every proposed development is going to be soon to be occupied or occupied single-family homes next to multifamily. You might, in fact, have large swaths of subdivisions that are all single-family. So, was there any discussion about maybe being a little more surgical in terms of this interest in deviating from the state?
There is, and part of the discussions at our councils that allowed this to move forward, quite frankly, was the agreement that we would come up with a standard. That standard is owed by my office to the BIA, and we're going to work out kind of a understanding of when this would be applied. The concern we heard from the BIA is that the person in my position can change, and the standard would then change with that person. And so we are going to lay out, and we have a draft form that the BIA will receive by the end of the month, when we would apply this. For our jurisdiction, we do this routinely. And I wanted to just address some of the questions that Supervisor Hume mentioned. There is a timeline where infrastructure planning can impact development, and then it is quite normal for infrastructure to be going in at the same time as foundations and things like that. We do that all the time. It's just not by right. We use an alternative means and methods approach. That's our standard. It does allow the fire department and me in particular to make that decision. Historically, if there was a concern, they would go up to the fire chief and through our ranks. That has not happened because we typically find a solution and have for many years. So yes, we are looking at a more standardized concept so that there is certainty for our developer partners and when this would be applied. We have not got that across the finish line as of yet.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, no other supervisor in the queue. Are there any public comments?
Yes, we do have public speakers signed up for item 36. First, Chris Norum.
I'm not sure if you still have questions for me, since we talked about this already. So I'll yield my time.
Thank you. All right, bringing it back to the board, Supervisor Hume.
Thank you, Chair. Turn my mic on there. Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the position as relayed here. When this item was raised to me, I did reach out to CSD fire leadership in order to kind of get the lay of the land when this item was considered by their board. And it was not an omission or something that was overlooked. There was actually conversation at the board meeting when this item was coming forward. And so it was an informed decision by the board, which I think presents one issue for me. Personally, from my ideological worldview, I don't understand why we would ever be more restrictive than the state model code. Whatever the state says we can do, that's what, in my estimation, we ought to do. The issue was further complicated by the fact that the governor apparently had an executive order that said whatever code is in place at 12/31/25, you cannot then further adopt a code that is more restrictive than model code. In the effort to streamline the production of housing and try and meet our housing crisis. And so from what I understand, that was the feeling at the CSD is let's get it on the books because we can't go back and add it, but we can certainly amend it or take it away at a later date. And so all of this is simply to say, again, I don't agree. I think that the fact that it's been on the books since '92 is a pretty specious reason to continue it if it's not needed or not effective. I'm going to be bringing up under supervisor comments an ordinance that was put into place as a result of Woodstock. And so, times change, circumstance change. I don't ever want to second guess or undermine the provision of health and life safety from the professionals who are charged with doing that work. So from your professional standpoint, I respect your position and your opinion. And I think I would agree with the comments by my colleague of being more surgical, that if this is meant to apply to multifamily, then maybe we can parse that out a little better. And so here's what I would say is kind of closing in my remarks. I'm uncomfortable being asked to reach down to a lower agency within my district and override an informed decision that they made. I don't appreciate when that's done to us by agencies above us, and so I don't certainly want to be that person doing that. So I won't vote to override that. In other words, I guess a cleaner way of saying that is I'll vote to ratify the code that you guys have put forward, but I commit to working with the BIA and others and reaching out to my colleagues to see if there isn't a pathway that provides a greater level of comfort, that the expediency and need for folks to get housing produced is there, and that also meets the needs of health and life safety.
Is that a motion?
I would put forward that motion. Yes.
Second.
Okay, we have one more speaker, Supervisor Desmond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Supervisor Hume, for the comments. I did have a question. I know there's no staff recommendation on this item, but we've heard from BIA, and I'd like to. Can you opine about what is the impact, in your opinion, of this, Dave?
Yeah, so Dave DeFonte, Deputy County Executive. I'll caveat this with the obvious. I'm not a fire expert. So I can't give you a specific number as to the temporal impact, but as you heard today, generally developers, builders want to get things built as fast as possible. And it does take time to go through the process for us to accept the water system as now county-owned and maintained infrastructure. That includes a lot of what Fire Marshal Nygren had mentioned earlier, chlorination testing, all of that stuff. So during that process, they want to be able to bring materials on site and start some level of construction, and that's what the temporary water provision allows for. I can't speak to exactly the time that it may cost, but it could be in the weeks, as we've heard here today, and time to the builders is money. And given your direction to me and to our staff to help shorten those timeframes whenever possible and make building easier in the unincorporated county, that was certainly front and center to us in these conversations. Just by way of information as to what's coming forward to you in February, you're going to have yet another fire code to be considering, and that's the county fire code. So that'll be the county fire code for places like Natomas. Not covered by the districts here today. That fire code will allow for temporary water. So generally our stance is, again, from the non-professional point of view, that seems reasonable. But again, we are not necessarily the experts in this field, and we are in sort of an odd position. So to add on to the lack of recommendation here, we are essentially taking what was adopted by a fire board and presenting it to you as required by health and safety code, right? So this is one of the rare instances where you're going to see a staff report from us without a very firm recommendation.
Thank you, Dave, for that. And what happens process-wise if, say we don't ratify this? What happens then?
So you have a couple choices. You can ratify, you can choose to not ratify, or you can ratify with modifications. And if you were to do the latter of either of those two, either not ratify or ratify with changes, you would have to make written findings and submit those to the fire district within 15 days. During the interim, the state code controls.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Kennedy.
So if there was a ratification with modifications, then that goes back to their board for approval?
Yeah, and I may need to lean on council here because it, at least in my mind, creates a bit of a potential do loop, right? Where if you ratify with modifications, send it back, they say, you know, thanks for that information, but we like what we did before. They send it back to you, right? We can get a little bit stuck there. I don't know if council has any additional information on that.
Yeah, that's my understanding of the process.
Okay. I'd like to make a substitute motion that we ratify with a modification allowing for temporary, similar to that which Sacramento Fire was just approved of.
Okay. Supervisor Cerna, do you want to comment now, or?
Well, I was going to speak to the principal motion more as just kind of peripheral direction. And that was, should the primary motion pass, that we get, we the board get an individual update, not necessarily an open session, about what I thought was what I thought I heard, at least from the fire marshal, is for Sumnus, is that there's expected ongoing conversation with the BIA. So I thought that was a reasonable disposition to hold, and that combined with supervisor represents the area, has the closest working relationship with CSD, I thought it was worthy of my second, and I stand by that. So I would just say that I'm prepared to, again, support the primary motion if we get that far.
Supervisor Kennedy.
Thank you, Chair. And the reason I made the motion that I made is I think it's reasonable. I think safety has been taken into account. It makes it consistent with the entire state of California, not to mention all the other local jurisdictions, and I'm hearing that others are coming with the same type of allowances for temporary will be before us. So that was my reasoning for doing this. I think out of fairness and reasonableness, it's the right thing to do. So I stand by the motion and call the question.
Okay, so I just want to make a comment. I was prepared to not support the motion because I think that there is a state agency that has set a standard that is being followed by several jurisdictions. However, I will support the substitute motion that will allow for temporary water until we can figure out some other processes there. So will the clerk please call for a vote? I have some after?
After.
Okay.
This is the vote on the substitute motion by Kennedy and Desmond. Motion passes 5-1 with Supervisor Hume voting no. 4-1.
And we have Lisa in the queue.
Yes, I just want to point out that because it is, I think, a modification, we do need a written statement describing the reasons for any modification or denial. So I think based on what the board has said, staff, are you comfortable preparing that?
Isn't that typically done by the seconder of the motion?
Right. I just want to ensure that staff has enough information to prepare that written statement.
I believe we do. My question to council may be whether or not that action stands then today, or if we have to come back with findings. But if we can just take what we heard today, I think we have enough information.
I think we can take what we have today, as long as you're comfortable.
And I'm comfortable.
Okay. Obviously, we'll work with you, but want to make sure you're fine. Okay.
All right, we're good to go. All right, will the clerk please call? Oh, were there any requests to speak?
We took it.
We took it. Okay, all right. Will the clerk please call the next item?
All right, next item is timed item number 37, adopt a resolution approving a stormwater utility fee contingent upon the results of the tabulation of property owner ballots.
Good afternoon, Chair Rodriguez, members of the board. Amataj Sandy, Drainage Division Chief with Water Resources. I have a 25-minute presentation. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. This is a short
Mr.
item.
Villanueva wins his review.
This is a short item. The item before you today is a request to approve the Stormwater Utility 2 fee, contingent upon the clerk of the board tabulating the ballots. The item was previously presented to you on November 18th, and then we did a protest hearing on December 9th. No protests were received on that date. Ballots were mailed out to property owners in December. Ballots were due back today, so the clerk of the board will be tabulating ballots today. We'll provide the results of that ballot tabulation to you at the February 10th board meeting. And I think that's about it for this item.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
No questions from, okay, Supervisor Hume?
Thank you, Chair. I apologize. During my briefing, I'd asked a question about the provision of this fee onto ag-res and agricultural parcels. Right. Oftentimes, their stormwater is a roadside ditch, and the maintenance of that ditch gets called into question. So can I just have clarification of what this fee provides for those parcels?
So for an agricultural parcel with no residents on there, they wouldn't be charged a fee. If there's a residence, there is a fee involved, but most of these developments or parcels will be annexed on a project-by-project basis. So when a project comes in, they'll annex in the stormwater utility. At that point, that parcel will be developed, so they won't be charged an agricultural fee. They'll be charged basically the fee once the development is constructed. So the homes are in place, they'll be charged a fee at that point. We're not doing a county-wide, all parcels are included. This is just specific annex parcels. As they develop, they'll be annexed into this new fee.
So this fee has a geographic boundary?
It does, yes.
Okay. So again, though, I would restate my question. For agricultural residential lots, Tier 1 is about $50 a parcel. Tier 2 is just over $80 a parcel.
Right.
What I want to be able to tell my constituents is what are they buying with that fee?
So those parcels do drain into an improved storm drain system.
Okay.
So eventually there's a receiving body and there's facilities in place that take that water. So that fee would basically pay for the maintenance and operations of those systems.
Which was my assumption in the briefing, is that it has nothing to do with the maintenance of the adjacent ditch.
No.
It is the system downstream that has to accommodate that flow.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, very good. Are there any requests to speak?
We do have one request to speak on this item 37, Chris Norum.
It looks like he left.
Okay, all right, so bringing it back to the board.
He's rushing back in.
Yeah, there he goes.
Busy morning. Hi, Chris Norum, North State BIA. We're in favor of this item.
Thank you.
County staff's done a lot of work to try to help provide some more certainty around how this works, and we were here when it was originally read, I believe, so we're in favor of it. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd move staff recommendation.
Okay, all right, will the clerk please call the roll? Yeah, call the roll.
All right.
Bring it to a vote.
This item passes 5-0 unanimously.
All right, great. Well, that is it for the morning. And so we will now adjourn to closed session.
We have
You
comments.
want nominations and finish off your morning, finish off the day?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do you want to finish off your day with your nominations and your
that
other
now.
things?
Okay, we could. Perfect. Trying to accelerate here. All right.
All right, item 38 is Board of Supervisors 2026 appointments from own ranks to regional boards and commissions. First up, we have the Adult and Aging Commission. We need a chair or chair designee. Current member is Aaron Chong, and we would direct this to the chair.
Okay, this is assign Matt Hedges.
Matt Hedges, will do. Thank you very much. And then the Criminal Justice Cabinet. We're looking for an alternate to appoint. The current alternate is Supervisor Desmond.
You're still interested? Everything will stay the same.
Remain. Thank you. And for the Health and Human Services Council, we have the chair designee, Current member is Aaron Chong.
All right, we'll assign Matt Hedges.
Thank you very much. And finally, we have the Sacramento, California Capital Air Show Board of Directors. Chair designee, current member is Felipe Fuentes.
And we will keep Felipe till the end of the year.
Excellent. Through the end of the year. Perfect. All right, and that concludes item 38. And then item 39 is our nominations. The following nominations are continued to February 10th, 2026. We have the Adult and Aging Commission, Arden Arcade Community Planning Advisory Council, Carmichael Community Planning Advisory Council, Cemetery Advisory Committee, County Planning Commission, In-Home Supportive Services Advisory Committee, Public Health Advisory Board, Rio Linda Alberta Community Planning Advisory Council, Sacramento Council Behavioral Health Youth Advisory Board, Sacramento County Youth Commission, Vineyard Community Planning Advisory Council. And the following boards' nominations have been continued to February 24th, 2026. We have the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation Citizens Advisory Committee, the Cosumnes Area Community Planning Advisory Council, County Services Area 4B, Slough House, Wilton, Cosumnes, County Services Area 4C, Delta, Elk Grove, Cosumnes Cemetery District, Equal Employment Opportunity Advisory Committee, Local Child Care Planning and Development Council, Maternal Child and Adolescent Health Advisory Board, Public Financing Authority of the County of Sacramento Metro Air Park Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District. And continued to March 10th, 2026, we have the Assessment Appeals Board, Delta Citizens Municipal Advisory Council, Disability Advisory Commission, Fair Oaks Community Planning Advisory Council, Foothill Farms Community Planning Advisory Council, and Natomas Community Planning Advisory Council. Which brings us to today's nominations. First up, the Carmichael Recreation and Park District. There is one seat for District 3 nomination.
Please continue to March 10th.
Continuing to March 10th, thank you. Then we have the Children's Coalition. There are 25 seats for appointment from the board.
Chiefs recommend nominating Valerie Sanchez and continue the remaining to February 10th.
Valerie Sanchez, thank you very much. We have Developmental Disabilities Planning and Advisory Council. There are 14 seats for the board.
Chiefs recommend reappointing Loretta Duncan Fowler and continue the remaining to February 10th.
Loretta Duncan Fowler, thank you. We have the Health and Human Services Coordinating Council. There are 10 seats in total. 2 are District 1 nominations.
I'd like to nominate Josh Gumikel to the Health and Human Services Coordinating Council, and please continue the remainder to February 10th.
Excellent. Thank you very much. There are 2 for District 2 nominations.
Please continue to February 24th.
Thank you. There are 2 for District 3 nominations.
Please continue to February 10th.
Thank you. 2 for District 4 nominations.
Please continue to February 10th.
Thank you. 2 for District 5 nominations.
I apologize. I don't have my vote sheet. I assume you've been advised of our intentions.
Yes, I see that no applicants currently. So
we'll continue to whatever the date.
February 24th.
February.
Yeah, we'll go with February 24th.
Yeah, thank you very much. We have the Sacramento County Behavioral Health Commission. There is 1 nomination for District 4.
Chiefs recommend nominating Sydney Bice.
Thank you very much, Sydney Bice. We have the Sheriff Community Review Commission. There is 1 nomination for District 5, which looks like we're continuing this to February 24th, 2025.
I take your word for it.
All right, sounds good to me. And those are all the nominations for today. We have item 40, county executive comments.
Thank you, Todd.
Do you want to do those now? Or
I would.
okay, sorry.
If you're okay with that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
My apologies.
We may have a picture to share. I just wanted to take a moment to recognize an employee of the Sacramento County Probation Department. This is Officer Raul Sharma. He was named Sacramento Regional Probation Employee of the Year by the Chief Probation Officers Association of California. Officer Sharma is a key member of the California Multi-Jurisdictional Methamphetamine Enforcement Team, and he's played a major role in a year-long investigation for high-level drug trafficking. He has produced some critical intelligence and has assisted in major movements in this investigation, moving this investigation forward. Of course, Chief Rowe says that Officer Sharman is dedicated and shows incredible skill and an important team member for Sacramento County and the probation team. And here in the county exec's office, we're very proud, and as well as the probation's chief, of Officer Sharma and what he's done and he continues to do for Sacramento County, especially as it relates to the methamphetamine pieces. So thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Hume.
My comments are for supervisor comments, not on the county exec comments, so I don't know if my colleagues.
So sorry, can we move on to the next item?
Then item number 41, supervisor comments, reports, and announcements.
Supervisor Hume.
Thank you. I alluded to this earlier, but it has come to my attention due to a proposed country concert that we have an ordinance in our code that was enacted out of reaction to Woodstock. And it has some
pretty... As in 1969?
As in 1969, and it references people jumping fences to kill cattle. So I don't know if that ever took place or takes place, but it is a little bit restrictive in what can be allowed, and I would like the opportunity to have staff explore whether or not in 2026 this ordinance is still effective as written. Okay, thank you.
Good.
Do you support the ordinance or the changing? Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure.
We'll take that on. Thank you,
Thank you. I
Supervisor.
appreciate that.
Supervisor Desmond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to, I participated with Supervisor Kennedy last night in the kickoff for the point-in-time count last night, and I think we all understand the importance of that point-in-time count. We also all understand, I think, the limitations, inherent limitations of it, which Supervisor Kennedy articulated during the media event. But I went out, I had the opportunity to go out with Emily Halcon and one of our COHIWO workers, and I just think it really, if you have the opportunity to go do it tonight, please do it. It really reinforces, obviously, the importance of the work we do, but I think it demonstrates to me the progress we're making in terms of the system change, the progress we're making in terms of the capacity we're bringing online and the efforts we're making to hold ourselves more accountable for what we're doing with serving this population. And it's a gut-wrenching experience to go out there. I think we contacted about 25 individuals who were living unsheltered, and it's important to humanize that population. So I just want to thank staff who's involved in that. Certainly thank Sacramento Steps Forward, but it was really great for me to go out actually with Emily and one of our COHIWO workers. So just wanted to give a shout out to them.
All right, Supervisor Serna.
Well, first, let me just reference what Supervisor Desmond just mentioned. I think it's important. The point-in-time count, of course, does have its limitations that I've been touting since first going on one of 4, I think I've been on, several years ago. And I'll just mention, too, I think the real benefit of participating in the point-in-time count is to put a face to the policy, so to speak, I mean, in terms of what we do up here, and understanding that, we're never talking about widgets, we're talking about human beings who are suffering. And in fact, I had the last person that swore me in was an individual that was suffering addiction and was homeless, and that's someone I met during the homeless count. I think the second one I've been on. So my comments, though, today, I just wanted to publicly congratulate my special assistant, Aaron Chong. Many of you know Aaron. He's a fixture on the second floor. He's been with our district for several years, and prior to that with Supervisor Yee, and before that with, I believe, Mayor Yee, after my father passed at the city of Sacramento. So no stranger to public service in the realm of elective governance. So I just wanted to publicly say on the record, congratulations to Aaron. He does a fantastic job for us in terms of fielding requests and interest by our constituents in District 1 and beyond. So congratulations, Aaron.
All right. All right, congratulations, Aaron. Okay, I have 2 adjournments. One of them is I would like to adjourn this meeting in memory of Alvin Prasad and Deputy James Carvalho. Alvin Prasad worked for the county for 18 years and worked in the Human Services Specialist for the Department of Human Assistance. Due to the senseless, violent attack, Alvin sadly passed away due to his injuries. Alvin spent many of his DHA years helping our most vulnerable customers transition towards sustainable employment. Alvin was a valued member of the multi-department LGBTQ caucus, where he mentored our next generation of staff to educate colleagues and inspire authenticity and freedom of expression. Alvin will be remembered not only for the impact of his work, but for the kindness, positivity, and genuine care he brought to every interaction. He is a colleague who uplifted others, a mentor who inspired growth, and a friend whose presence made our community stronger. And then I also have Deputy Carvalho, who faithfully served the residents of Sacramento County for nearly 19 years, dedicating his career to public safety and the protection of our community. At the time of his passing, he was en route to work at the Rio Consumnes Correctional Center, reflecting his commitment to service. He is remembered as a respected colleague, a dedicated public servant, and a valued member of the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office. His loss is deeply felt by his family, friends, deputies, and Sacramento County community. So we will adjourn to closed session in memory of Alvin Prasad and Deputy James Carvalho.
Supervisors.